in common, except for being in your room. I'm trying to figure out the problem. Oh baby, if I only know why you want me to stay when I wanna leave, and maybe I should pray and try to believe that we're gonna be okay, but it's hard to focus. I never wanna do you like this, so I just gotta admit that our hearts, they don't click, and our friends, they don't mix. How? But you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit that our love can't fix. But your kiss, I might miss. How? But you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit we have nothing more to laugh at, and you hate it when I tell my jokes. But I know you like it with the lights up, and I can't stand to be alone. That's why I always stay when I wanna leave, and maybe I should pray and try to believe that we're gonna be okay, but it's hard to focus. I never wanna do you like this, so I just gotta admit that our hearts, they don't click, and our friends, they don't mix. How? But you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit that our love can't fix. But your kiss, I might miss. How? But you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit. If only for the night. If only for the night. Cali bound, speed on 99. Living for the moment. Blue dress, yeah, fit me right. You know I'm on a planet. We are more beautiful together. We leave a sizzle in the air. I'm not afraid about the future. I close my eyes and I am there. Come test me so hard. Give me the crash course. I should let go, but I'm holding on. I know you treat love like fast cars, burn through hearts like NASCAR. But this is the best part, when there's nothing else left to lose. If only for the night. If only for the night. We'll be touching bodies. We'll light up the sky. If only for the night. If only for the night. We'll be touching bodies. So let's light up the night up. You and I now, burn bright, and we'll make it illuminated. You and I now, burn until the moonlight is stolen, and the sunrise is broken. You and I will be the focus. It's going up, gravity cannot control this. We have to sit it all together, like tomorrow don't exist. If we can never have forever, then maybe hold me, this is it. Come test me so hard, give me the crash course. I should let go, but I'm holding on. I know you treat love like fast cars, burn through to lose. If only for the night. 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 We'll be touching bodies. We'll light up the sky. If only for the night. If only for the night. If only for the night. If for the night. We'll be touching bodies. So let's light up the night up. You and I now. so good, something so right, heals me. Put me on go, give me that touch that kills me. Give me that one thing you know you feel me. I want you, I need you. Come on, tell me what you wanna do. Be my somebody, be my somebody. Be my somebody, be my somebody. Be my somebody, be my somebody. Be my somebody, just don't be my nobody. Don't be my nobody. Be
Welcome to National Student Pride 2018.
Welcome to National Student Pride. We were founded 13 years ago in response to a homophobic and bigoted talk at Oxford Brookes University. Since then, we've moved all over the UK, and we are the largest gathering of LGBT plus students in the country. And our activism continues. Instead of one panel, we are a full weekend of events, including our free-to-attend daytime that you'll hear at today, where every year the agenda is set by students just like you.
I'm Nikki Hayden, the President of the LGBTI Society here at the University of Westminster. I am so proud this event is held here on our Marylebone campus, especially because one of the themes this year is on gender identities. On stage today, an entirely trans non-binary panel will be talking about being beyond the binary. I know that the activists on stage today have been told by huge national media outlets that they can't talk about being non-binary because, quote, people barely get being trans. They aren't ready to talk about being non-binary. Well, we disagree. I know on campus how young people are embracing how gender is as much of a spectrum as sexuality is. And keeping true to students' activism history, let us be part of the conversation that breaks that taboo here today.
I'm Alejandro. I'm brand new to the Student Pride Committee this year, and I can't believe I've grown this. I wanted to take part in this opener because I also know, even after all the conversations we'll have today, there is so much we have left to fight for, politics to change, attitudes to improve. So I want to say, everyone here sitting in the audience today, if you want to help shape our event, please speak to anyone in the pink jeans and find out how you can join the team. This is your event, and only by taking part in the way we make it can you help shape its focus.
And to our main focus this year, the one our student committee put at the forefront of our priority list. It's the one that breaks hearts, it's crisis. This year, we've decided to talk about the tragedy that sees a disproportionate amount of young homeless people being LGBT+, because they're often kicked out of their homes. And that's why I'm starting our event with an invitation for you to join in with our activism. Join our Pride of Conversation today, but after you listen, take action. On the 20th of February, we are doing a sponsored sleep out to raise money for their vital work. I'm confident that after hearing about it on stage today, you'll know why you should support the Albert Kennedy Trust, whether that be with a donation or helping us spread the word. We just posted the details on our social media on how you can get involved. So now, let's hear about why that work is so important. Welcome to National Student Pride.
This is National Student Pride 2018. And now, please put your hands together for your host, James Barr.
Hello, National Student Pride! How are you today? Everyone is looking beautiful. Welcome. Where's everyone from? Who's here from the Northeast? Woo! Anyone from the Northwest in? What about the South? Who's here from the South? London, are you in the house? Do we have Wales here? Scotland? half Scottish, just one. Well, there's two now, 1.5, because I'm half Scottish. Today is the pride of conversation. We're not just about getting totally messed up, though obviously that will happen, or maybe did happen also last night. Who was out last night? Any sore heads? Sore head? You're okay? Everyone else okay? We ready to do this? Can we get some energy up in here? We're getting out now on Facebook Live, which is really exciting. We're also live on the Student Pride website and YouTube and Gay Star News website. So give a wave to all the mums listening at home, watching, sorry. They were trying to find something else, but they found us, so yay. But coming up, Callum Scott performing. Amazing. I'm so looking forward to that. Courtney acted here in a very special conversation with Evan Davis at 3:50. So make sure you're back here if you're wandering around. We have two other stages as well, the music stage, and one that I'm very excited about, YouTubers and puppies. How amazing is that? That's also at 3:50, so check that out. Today's main focus, as you already know, is the LGBT plus homeless crisis in the UK. This is so awful. 1 in 4 young people who are homeless are LGBT. And later today, we're going to hear some tragic stories from people just like us, and I know they're going to be very inspiring as well. Next week, actually, Hattie, who we saw just now, who luckily did not fall down the stairs, I was so terrified, is hosting a sponsored sleep out, and that will be raising money for the Albert Kennedy Trust, and you can get involved and help sponsor that. .co.uk. Also coming up, a Beyond the Binary very special performance from Callum, Courtney Act, and our new game show, Queer Date. You can actually date celebrities, YouTubers, influencers, and millionaires, guys. Millionaires. And Valentine's Day is coming, so who's up for that? Ollie Locke, I have my name on him. Let's get this started, shall we? Right now, please welcome the Beyond the Binary panel in collaboration with My Genderation. We're welcoming on stage 2 of the trio who run the initiative that makes content about people beyond gender binaries, made by trans and non-binary people. Please give a huge student pride welcome to Fox Fisher and Al Stefania.
Yay. Yay. Hey everybody, how are you doing today? Ooh, it's so exciting. We're really happy to be here, and we've got some wonderful people to have a conversation over the next 45 minutes with. So I would like to introduce everybody else. The third part of My Generation is Mr. Lewis Hancox. Mr. Comedy. And then we've got Isla Oldham as well, who's a helicopter pilot, originally with the RAF, now with the police. And we have Maria as well, who's a non-binary, wonderful human being, who is the third part of there's 3 non-binary people on this panel, so Maria is the third. We also have Lily Madigan. Lily. You all know Lily from being a wonderful human being, also involved with the Labour Party, and a future MP right here. So what we'll do is we'll start with a pronoun round, just because that's what we usually do. So Maria, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Maria Manir. My pronouns are they and them.
Lily, she, her.
Fox, they, them.
And Al, they, them.
Lewis, he, him.
And Isla, she, her.
Great. So what's all this non-binary stuff about? So we've kind of, I think about 7 years ago, Lewis and myself were on a documentary called My Transsexual Summer, and it kind of started a dialogue with the nation. It seems like so long ago now, but at the time, and somebody was using the quote just now, the presenter, they were saying that when I was trying to talk about being non-binary, and at the time I was referring to myself as genderqueer, the person filming me kind of put the camera down and said, "Look, Fox, the Channel 4 audience is not going to understand what you're talking about, so can you just simplify your experience for the audience?" And so I was kind of not that confident at the time, so I agreed with that, and we just went on. But I believe that now we're definitely more able to start talking about more, beyond the binary, which is the hashtag of this of today's conversation. So just if we have a quick look in the media in general, and if we kind of look at film, for example, and I'm going to open it up to conversations in a second. I'm just trying to do my introduction right now. But so if we look at kind of trans people represented in film and television, if we look back, we've got examples of Ace Ventura when the character discovers that there's a trans woman involved. Often the butt of the joke is, oh my god, it's a trans woman, like in the In-Betweeners as well, or even in the Absolutely Fabulous film. It's funny, the person's trans, and that's kind of not going to stand the test of time, I don't think. And if we look at kind of mainstream films which have a huge effect, and I think more good than bad, but we can discuss this. We can look at The Crying Game, Boys Don't Cry, Trans America, The Danish Girl, Alice Buyers Club, and Pedro Almodovar's All About My Mother. None of those films actually feature a trans person playing the part, and I think that's something that we should also be talking about today. The positive side of things is there's definitely more space for trans people to be involved in film. There's a lot of projects and things like that to elevate trans acting. And of course, trans people shouldn't have to play trans roles as well, and that's where we're going to get to. But there's been some great films in the past couple of years, like Tangerine. I don't know if people have seen Tangerine, but that was involving trans people who had a lot of say from the pitch to the final product. And as we say, nothing about us without us. Another one is Boy Meets Girl, obviously the series in the UK and the film as well, really fantastic film. Both of those products feature trans main character, it's really important. And a fantastic book coming out in the UK in March, and that features a trans woman who plays a trans woman. So that's pretty much where we're at. Just thinking about last year as well, I just want to acknowledge Asia Kate Dillon, who is a non-binary person who received an award for their performance, and I believe that was in the male category. Is that right, Al?
Yeah, I think they basically, because there is no non-binary category, they basically had to choose between the female and the male, and I'm pretty sure it was the male category that they chose for that, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're going to show you a quick 2-minute film that features Al and myself, which is, it's just called This Is What Non-Binary Looks Like. And we created this just after we had a particularly difficult conversation with Piers Morgan, kind of justifying who we were. And the really positive thing that happened as a consequence of that was the hashtag This Is What Non-Binary Looks Like that went viral on Twitter. So it's an ongoing thing. If you want to have a look and see what non-binary people look like, or you want to contribute to that, then that's where you'll find it. So can we have the film, please?
I'm Fox, and this is what non-binary looks like.
I'm Al, and this is what non-binary looks like. We don't necessarily expect you to know what that means, but let us explain.
I was assigned female at birth.
I was assigned male at birth. While many people understand what it is to be a trans man or a trans woman, being non-binary is still very misunderstood.
Being non-binary means that we identify as neither a man or a woman.
What makes us men or women or non-binary is an inner sense of self.
It's not what genitals we have, what we wear, or who we're attracted to.
It's who we are, which is something no one can take away from us.
Gender identity and gender expression are two different things.
The fact that I present as feminine,
the fact that I present as masculine,
does not make us any less non-binary.
It's just clothes, it's just presentation, it's just a form of expression.
Non-binary people have always existed, and they do so in cultures all around the world.
Non-binary people do not want to erase your identity as a man or a woman.
All non-binary people want is to be respected and acknowledged for who they are.
Non-binary people are real, authentic, and express themselves in so many different ways. We are legally recognized in countries such as Malta, New Zealand, Australia, Nepal, and more.
We encourage all non-binary people to share their selfies under the hashtag This Is What Non-Binary Looks Like.
The hashtag is already well and truly underway, and it's a real inspiration for us all.
I'm Al, and this is what non-binary looks like.
I'm Fox, and this is what non-binary looks like.
So Maria, I think there was a screen grab of your tweet there, was there?
There was.
So how did it feel to be involved with that, and how did you experience the hashtag?
See, I saw it because obviously I follow them on Twitter, which everyone should do. And I felt so empowered because, you know, there have been a lot of hashtags going around, like, you know, like Black Men Smile, and like, you know, this is what a black girl looks like, and all these things, like, and it just felt so good to see that non-binary was being acknowledged as well. And for me, it was really empowering because I've often felt, because I kind of present in a way that means people often assume that I'm a woman, I often feel like I'm being excluded from the conversation of what non-binary looks like. Your presentation doesn't have to be androgynous, or you don't have to, you know, look a certain way. I think that's not exactly what being non-binary embodies, that you just disobey those preconceived notions.
Absolutely. Lily, as a binary trans person, how did you, when did you first discover about non-binary people, and how do you think, because I know there's some you know, non-binary people kind of have to justify themselves to cis people, but also to binary trans people as well.
So I didn't really know about binary people until the end of last year, which really isn't great as a trans person. But it's definitely a learning point for me that not all trans people are binary, and I think so I'm here as well to learn from your amazing people.
That's great, thank you, Lily. Lewis, how about you? How do you feel about, you know, as a binary trans person?
Well, yeah, so I come from like a really small town up north, and I had no idea what being trans was in the binary sense, you know, and I just kind of, when I was younger, I always just saw it as this, you know, one to the other kind of thing, and I only kind of went off how I felt as well, always just feeling male. And it was only when I took part in the TV show My Transsexual Summer with Fox that I learned about being non-binary through you. And like, I know there's a lot of, yeah, there is, it's weird how there's a lot of binary trans people that aren't accepting. I mean, we've, you know, as a binary trans person, I've had to struggle for my identity to be recognised and accepted, so of course I can empathise with, you know, non-binary people or anyone that's struggling with that. So even though I never used to understand what it meant, now that I do, of course, you know, well, of course, it sounds silly to say I accept it. Of course I would, you know, like, I can't understand why people wouldn't. So to me, it's a mystery, I guess. It's a mystery. Well, you know.
Well, maybe Isla can help us with this. I'm not saying that you're a bigot at all. But why do you think that people, that trans people, binary trans people, might feel threatened by non-binary identities?
I think this boils down to allyship, doesn't it? So I, you know, as a binary trans person, I go through life, and I know that I experience a little bit of cis privilege. You know, people don't always recognise I'm trans, and it's become easier over the last sort of 5-6 years to talk about being trans openly. And there's that fear that if we upset that delicate balance, I've only just crossed the line of acceptability. Don't ruin it for me, you know. And I think that's where some of this fear comes from. The only conclusion I could come to was, you know, hell, if I'm asking people to accept me for who I say I am, and they're finally doing that, I have no right to judge anyone else on who they say they are. So even though I don't identify as non-binary, the simple process of saying that this is me is enough for me to be an ally to that way of being.
Absolutely. I think that it's about fragile femininity and fragile masculinity. I suppose when you fight so hard to be accepted in a certain space, maybe the worry is that, you know, people might not accept you for who you are, but as we said in the film, you know, we're not trying to take away from people's identities, you know, as well, that people can identify as a man or a woman, and that's absolutely fine, obviously. So what can we do to improve and elevate non-binary rights in the UK? And I think that we should be very specific to the UK. Al, will you just explain a little bit about what's happening at the moment with legislations and so on?
I mean, I think there's a real change and a shift happening across Europe, especially because there's more and more countries that are recognizing that only allowing certain genders to be recognized legally isn't enough, and there needs to be recognition of more than just male and female or woman and man. And there's countries who are now allowing, for example, X to be put on a passport or on your IDs. And this progress has been happening for about the past 5 years, I would say, but it's really coming to a head now, because there's countries such as Malta and Denmark, Nepal, Argentina, and more countries in sort of all around the world, really, that are starting to step up. And where I come from, in Iceland, it's probably going to be one of the next big steps in a legal sense. But it's always a question of how much does legal really affect the social, or does the social affect the legal first? And there's always this conversation. And I think it seems like for non-binary people right now, the legal thing is going to be that's going to come first, and that's going to help us advocate more for the social part. But of course, the social part has affected the legal. We would never be passing laws if there wasn't, advocacy already happening. And yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, but it's going to be a long time until I think we realize that registering gender as an ID in general is just stupid. There's no point on having it, really. And I think this is a better step than having nothing. So at least if we can have 3, that's better than just having 2. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if people are aware, but we started to make a documentary last year called I Am They, and we'd like to share the trailer of that with you, just to kind of show you where we're at. But it's really funny because we're now being contacted nearly every week by production companies that are so excited to make a non-binary documentary. And it's
the new hype.
It's the new hype, it is. So can we cue the trailer, please?
Most people in society these days understand what it is to be a trans woman or a trans man. But what about trans people who don't identify with the rigid categories of being a man or a woman?
8 girls in her year are now non-binary, right? So schools are now running riot with kids who...
Not running riot.
Yes, they are running riot. When it's 8 kids in 1 year in one school in this country, it means it's now like a contagion.
It's like we're always having to prove who we are, always having to prove our identity. Like, we live this day in, day out, and it's just become this big news story.
I'm Fox Fisher. I was assigned female at birth.
I'm Al. I was assigned male at birth. And we're non-binary, which means that we don't identify as a man or a woman.
Want to get protest married?
Yeah, I do.
So, Mario, what kind of things are we struggling with at the moment in the UK, do you think, for non-binary people?
So I've been doing a lot of work with different businesses, or also with the civil service. So I got them to reform the way they do their graduate scheme. So they have, they move gender to the diversity monitoring form, because that's kind of, if you're going to monitor gender, that's where it belongs. Plus they allowed, self-text to define. I think, what you're talking about, Al, with like the social and the legal balance. Yeah, that's really hard, because if there's no political will in Parliament to do things, despite the trans inquiry, despite all that work that's been going on, despite the fact that Norman Lamb MP had an early day motion with over 100 different signatories from across all political parties to introduce X markers and other things, we clearly need to be working on kind of both sides at the same time, because I'm a firm believer that when businesses start to do things, we have to talk about this business case for equality, which really sucks, but that's how this modern day world works. So I think that what we really need to do is make sure that the people who are in a position to influence politicians, so say, for example, businesses, local communities, they need to start having a more inclusive attitude towards gender as well. And I think, we can work in tandem with those enforcing legal change. And I think that's a more holistic way of approaching it, but I definitely think that we need more non-binary people who are actually in the room making the decisions, rather than just being asked as a consultation all the time, because that sucks. I don't want to sit, like, this panel's great, but I don't want to get invited to panels as the non-binary, the Muslim Pakistani person to tell them how to do things.
Yeah, absolutely. Lily, as a future MP, what kind of things, what's the best way to implement change, do you think?
I think it's very important that people in positions are encouraging trans and non-binary people to go for these positions, and I think there's a duty on us to run programs and stuff like that to encourage them to do so, because at the moment there are no non-binary or trans people in the Houses of Parliament. So how are they supposed to adequately pass policies and legislation affecting trans and non-binary people when they're not at the table and contributing?
Absolutely, yeah. So Lewis, so you live with us. Yeah. What would you think is the future for trans equality and particularly non-binary equality?
I mean, I just think it would be great for non-binary people to be recognised by sort of like, by society in every sense, like health services and things like that too. We were talking about this earlier about how, you know, obviously different people need different things in terms of like access to, you know, whether somebody does want to be on hormones and surgery, and it's not black and white about, you know, how we feel about our bodies, and a lot of, you know, the health services deny non-binary people their rights to access to that, and a lot of non-binary people have to sort of pretend to be binary to get access to things, and you know, and I think that needs to, we've got a long way to go with that, like, you know, being just non-binary identities being recognised, and things like that being made easier, and just, yeah, in so many aspects. You know, I'd love to see more trans and non-binary people out there in the media, like doing things that aren't necessarily trans related, just, you know, actors, comedians, or whatever someone's career is, but they just happen to be trans or happen to be non-binary, and I think that can really help people accept us as well.
Absolutely. Isla, have you got any examples of good representation in the media?
Specifically for non-binary people.
Non-binary, for trans people in general as well?
It's increasing, and it's only been in the last 5 years that, you know, trans people have been invited and welcomed to these, you know, certainly national media. So they're few and far between. You know, there's likes of Paris Lees, there's Juno Dawson, you know, very slowly getting out there, but when they are visible, it tends to be, and the Paris and Juno are probably two exceptions to this, most trans people are visible for being trans, or they're talking about being trans, as, you know, exactly as Lewis says. We need people like, you know, Paris was on Question Time or Newsnight talking about, I don't know, Brexit or other political issues, you know, irrespective of her being trans, and that's critical. That's all about normalising and saying, you know, being trans might, in my case, be the 8th most interesting thing about me. You know, there's lots of other things that we all do.
Absolutely, yeah, I do believe that is the future. And if I just think about the trans people that we know at the moment, you know, we know helicopter pilots and race car drivers and comedians and so on. So I think that probably is the future, very much so. Somebody was having a conversation with me the other day about how in America there are, you know, there are trans people who are actors out there, you know, Laverne Cox and so on. And in the UK, we've yet to have that, and somebody was saying that for trans rights in the UK to move forward, that perhaps it needs to be in film or in music or something like that. I know Sam Smith came out as non-binary, is that right, recently? I'm seeing nods, yeah, that's exciting as well. So Al, what do you think that allies can do for trans people and non-binary people? Because I know people often want to help but don't really know how to.
I mean, there's a lot of things that people can do, and it's not so more about, you know, actually you having to do things. It's also about elevating trans and non-binary people and letting them have the voice and giving them the platform, and just generally supporting what trans and non-binary people are doing. I mean, even just the fact that you are at work and perhaps one of your colleagues is trans and you know that they're trans, and then there's a conversation in the workplace about trans issues, but this person isn't necessarily out as trans, and somebody says something offensive or something about trans people, it's a really great thing for you as an ally to be able to stand up for trans people in that situation, because trans people are constantly put in the situation to have to defend themselves over and over and over again. And trans people alone, even though we seem to be the most scariest group in society right now, who's gonna, you know, destroy the foundations of society, we're still a really, really small group, and we can't win this without allies. We can't fight prejudice. We can't make social and legal change without allies. So allies play, you know, a pivotal part in trans people actually getting the rights they need. And just speak up and, you know, retweet things, share a story, go see films about trans people. Anything you do will make a difference. It doesn't have to be a big activist thing where you show up to every protest there is, even though that's amazing if you can and have the energy to be able to do that. But it's also about the small things, and also about reaching out to the trans people you know and asking them, are you okay? How can I help? Is there anything you want me to do? And just that one question is already, you know, contributing to helping trans people.
That goes a long way.
Yeah.
Mario, have you got any thoughts about that? About what allies can do to assist trans people and non-binary people?
You see, I'm in this really weird situation where even when I can be wearing a pronoun badge saying like they, them, I will have people say, this is Maria, she uses they, them. Like, this doesn't really make any sense. I mean, you're kind of acknowledging it, kind of not. I don't really know what you're trying to do. And I think that partly this comes into education in schools. Like, we need better LGBT-focused education in schools. I was really surprised, you know, that my old school is starting to have like little feminist spin-off groups where they kind of educate themselves and things like that, which is really empowering, but that doesn't happen in every school. Not every school has the resources to do that. But I think to be better allies, like, you have to have the difficult conversations. Sometimes you will make mistakes. In fact, you will be making mistakes all the time at the beginning. I remember at the beginning I was misgendering myself constantly before I got used to it. And it's not bad to make a mistake, I don't think, so long as you acknowledge the consequences and try and better yourself. And I think we're in like, when I meet people and they're like, oh, you're non-binary, like they really have to squeeze it out because they're so afraid that they're going to mess up. And it's like, no, it's okay if you mess up because this society is bloody messed up. We'll figure it out together.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And I think that it is important to remember that none of us were born knowing the language or about trans issues, and we all learned it ourselves, and language is constantly evolving.
It's also a cultural thing about how you are able to articulate what being trans is. So, I mean, I come from Iceland, and there's certain things about how people explain being trans which is slightly different. There's slightly different nuances which have to do with cultural significance. So we also have to realize that, you know, there's so many different ways of explaining being trans and so many different experiences that, you know, we can't just have one explanation, this is what trans is, and everybody agrees, because it doesn't work like that.
It's funny because when I came out, the first thing people from my community said to me, are you gay? Because that's the only word that they knew. And they didn't know how, they didn't understand anything else. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does the future look like for trans awareness and understanding? Isla, any ideas of what this utopian future would be like?
We're not going to get there instantly. I think it's the first thing to recognise. I see it as lots of stages. So we have this grand idea where it's, you know, a future where there are no eggshells. You know, people are, you know, all very woke and they're quite happy to talk about these subjects. The future is where, you know, kids growing up particularly aren't afraid to be who they are. They don't have to question, oh, will I fit in? Do I have to try and pretend to be something I'm not, just to get through life, just to get through school, just to get a job? And that at each stage, you know, going through university, you might be in one environment where you feel safe and secure, that when you go off to work afterwards, that you don't have to suddenly find yourself back in the closet or, you know, hiding again, because that's kind of defeating the objects. So making sure that we keep the message going, and not accepting that the job's done. I don't think we'll ever be at the stage where we say we're done now. It comes back to your first question, about being an ally as a binary trans person with non-binary people. If I was to say, right, we're done now because I've got my equality, I'm fine, Jack, thanks, would be pulling the drawbridge up, and that's not done. So accepting that we're not.
Totally. Lewis, what kind of benefit do you think social media has had on trans awareness?
I think social media has been amazing. For me, I found all the information I needed to know through social media. Watching people on YouTube and things like that. Social media is, the future. Like most young kids would much rather watch videos online than TV these days. And it just gives. It's just everyone just gets. You get your own platform, don't you? You don't need to jump through hoops to put yourself out there. There's so many trans and non-binary people online that have big followings and things like that, and I think that is definitely the way forwards. And TV obviously still they still put documentaries and things like that out there, but it's just it's just twisted in a way that it is sensationalized and it doesn't tell people's stories authentically at all. So to have trans people putting out their own content that hasn't gone through anybody else, that's just amazing. So yeah, and also, as I said before, sort of hopefully it'll get to the point where you have people that are known for things that aren't, they just happen to be trans, and people, I was doing lots of comedy videos myself over the past year and a half, and I sort of built up a following from that. And funnily enough, a lot of my followers didn't know I was trans, even though I'd sort of come out on TV a few years previously, and then I sort of came out again to my following, and that was really, I've come out so many times now, but it was really cool because I got a lot of messages from people saying, oh my god, we loved your videos and we had no idea that you were trans. And I had trans people tell me that they were really happy to see a trans person out there, but then also people that weren't trans that seemed to, I guess it helped them understand or accept it a bit more, because they were kind of they sort of admired the work I did, and I suppose were a bit of a fan of. What was it?
First and foremost, they loved you for your work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then they found out I was trans, and it wasn't a big deal. So I guess that's sort of I'd like to see more of that. Hopefully, that'll be more and more of that.
Great. I know the Stonewall School report came out recently, and there were some very interesting statistics for young people. Al, do you remember?
I mean, I think it was quite alarming, the actual rates. I think about 84% of trans youth had self-harmed, and it showed that up to half of them had attempted suicide. And it just goes to show that trans people still have a long way to go before we can feel safe in society, because it was mainly because they felt stigmatized, or they felt victimized, or they felt like they couldn't be themselves in their environments. And I think, while at the same time we are moving forward quite fast and we are reaching all these goalposts and we're making progress, we're also still seeing a backlash, and we can't forget that, even though we're making this progress. And yeah, so that the school report actually reveals quite a lot. You can find it on the Stonewall website, and a lot of other resources as well.
I suppose we can't ignore, we don't even want to ignore it. There's a wonderful organization called All About Trans who really helps to improve representation in the media. Lily, have you heard of the organization? No. Well, let me tell you. There's a really great organization called All About Trans, and they've been around for about 5 or 6 years. And they go to various organizations like the BBC, Channel 4, The Sun, we've gone to, the Daily Mail, to basically give a human reference point of what it's like to be trans. They're very simple conversations that happen behind the scenes, and it usually involves a bunch of gatekeepers from the organization, people who make big decisions about stuff. They might be making the tabloid headlines. and so on, and they hook them up with trans people, and we just sit there in a room, or we might go to an aquarium, or if we're lucky, or somewhere similar to a restaurant perhaps, and just chat to them. And it's been a very, very helpful interaction. But there are a few downsides to it, I suppose, that there's a huge turnaround as well in the media. And people, if you make a connection with somebody, sometimes they might leave and go somewhere else or disappear. So you kind of have to constantly be doing that. But Al, did you...
Can't force it on people to have a meeting with All About Trans, and I mean the ones who need it the most are probably the ones that don't do it, so it's always a constant struggle to get, reach the people that need it the most, because they're often the ones who just don't want to hear it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lewis, what was an interaction that you really benefited from?
We had an interaction that was at the aquarium actually. We met with Ian, with Ian Critchley, who worked at the BBC at the time. But that was I just remember that being a lovely chat. He happened to be from the same town as me, St Helens, which is kind of strange, like nobody's ever from there. But we got on so well, and we've kept in touch ever since. And I know you share a lot of work with him, and he's a great advisor. I mean, they were quite a while ago when I did them, to be honest, but I did find them really, really great to just sit and chat to people. And we didn't even talk everything trans either. It was just about connecting. And I'm sure some of them probably think they've never met a trans person before. I mean, they might have done and just not known it, but I think it's good for them to just meet us and see that we're just humans,
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when we had an interaction with the Sun newspaper, and Isla was there as well, and I don't know if anyone saw the headline at the time, but there was a horrific headline about Isla. Do you want to explain about it?
Yeah, I can laugh now, of course. The headline was Will Powell loses his chopper, which I'm sure in the meeting that had that, they thought it was hilarious that they struck gold. So yeah, it was flying helicopters, sex change. I shouldn't have to explain that, should I? That was normalised, 2010. So it was in the Sun. It was picked up by the Daily Mail and various others, and it was all male pronouns and a trans man calling himself Isla, pretending to be a woman was the narrative behind it. It was horrendous to go through, and you held up for public ridicule. That's been a significant change. So while we're still seeing a backlash, and that's one of the negatives, as Al says, this visibility and positivity, is you get this backlash. At the very least, the language has shifted since 6, 7, 8 years ago, and that's step one. We're now in sort of phase 2, phase 3.
And weren't they able to actually remove
Stig Abel was the managing editor at the time, so he was in one of those in the meeting, and he, as I was talking, he was typing into Google, and he went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is atrocious," and that day took it down. So their heart was in the right place. They didn't know what they were doing was wrong. Right. But bravo to the Sun for taking that down. People have changed. We have to keep the message going back and saying, guys, you can do better still. But I think what was important was humanising it. As soon as they met a trans person, as you say, in a room full of people, and we didn't have to go in and say, poke the chest and say, "Oh, you be nice to us because it's hard being trans." We just had to say, "Look, we're people like you," and have a conversation about, where you're born and, fish tanks and cake. And by putting that human face on it, that did away with all of the eggshells and the worrying about what terminology you're using and what criteria you're hitting, what label you're applying to someone. Suddenly the labels became just a tool to describe humans.
Absolutely. It's very, very helpful, isn't it, just to be able to talk to people and not be, even if we might be upset about something, I know there's a lot of upset and there's a lot of anger about being treated a certain way. Lily, how effective do you think it is to be angry about something, in order to get something changed?
Oh gosh. Anger's always good in moderation. It's good to be annoyed enough to do something. That's very important. But also I'd say it has to go beyond just feelings at this point. It has to be something we're routinely doing, calling out transphobia, and just advocating to push trans people into positions at this point.
Absolutely. And Maria, what do you think about the new generation of people who seem to be less tied down by labels? Do you think that this is a positive? Obviously, it's a positive thing, but do you think we're going to enter a new realm? You know, perhaps where gender and sexuality don't mean so much.
I hope so, because I want to be there. Yeah. But no, I think it's great because, you know, like for example, I have a younger cousin who's 10, and in her school they had a role model program where they came in and they kind of said, okay, what does it mean to be a girl? And they broke it down, and you know, it was, you know, they like took them to all these places and showed them like, this is where you can be in power, you can like think about your world in a different perspective. I think things like that are really good. But the other thing is, like, I've obviously had my fair share of harassment on radio. Radio is the worst because they say whatever they want in their heads, and they're like, "Oh, do you feel like you're a chair?" Or, "Oh, do you have a uterus? Will you have babies? Can you have babies?" Like, when people hear that, though, when they think about it and they go, "Oh my God, that's horrible. Why would anyone say that?" It's like you said, Isla, about humanizing effect. People go, "Wait, why is this acceptable?" We need to enter a realm where people wonder, why do we accept things as they are? And I think that's what the kind of shift I'm seeing. The more like, okay, some op-eds can be a bit weird, but the more we're kind of like out there, I think people will start to be like, well, why have we got to live with things just because that's how it's always been? That was never a good enough excuse to allow human rights violations to continue, was it?
Absolutely. I think being out is still a political statement, for sure. Al, what do you think the future looks like?
I mean, I think we're always making progress, but there seems to be sort of a backlash everywhere in the world, really, you know, with politics in specific. But I'm always hopeful because I feel like things have changed so much in the past 10 years since I've been out. There has been a major shift, and we're still at the point where there's a sentence that has been going on in my mind right now, which is just that trans women are women and trans men are men and non-binary people are real and valid. And the fact that I feel like I need to say this sentence says a lot about where we still are. We're still fighting with these basic understanding of what it is to be trans. But I feel that I see more and more people saying that, and not necessarily trans people themselves. I feel like there's more and more people speaking up, and I think, yeah, I'm positive, even though it's sometimes a bit gloomy, especially when I look on Twitter, but you know, that's how it is.
Absolutely. Well, we're pretty much finishing up the end of our panel chat now. We're just going to go around and show you how you can find us on social media as well. So Maria, where can we find you?
Cool, you can find me at Maria, spelled Maria_Munir, Munir. Yes, I know being brown has its weird perks. So I'm sure you'll be able to find me. Just Google Obama Maria and you'll find me. I hope.
Lily, where can we find you?
So I'm on Twitter. If you Google me, it should just come up.
Cool. Lily Madigan. I'm there as The Fox Fisher, or check out My Generation on YouTube.
I have a stupid Icelandic handle on my Twitter, so everybody's never going to remember this, but it's Ugla Stefania, which is UGLASTEFANIA, or you can Google Owl, and then I'm pretty sure I'll come up eventually. Yeah.
Lewis?
So my Facebook page is Lewis Hancox, which is spelled Hancox, and my Instagram's Lewis Hancox Films. My YouTube's just Lewis Hancox. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Isla?
If I Google owl now, actually you come up above birds, which is great.
Perfect.
Google's learning. So I'm everywhere. Instagram, Twitter's probably the best. At Isla Holden, one word. But Google me, I'm everywhere.
Perfect.
And probably on here as well.
Great. Well, I just want to thank everyone for a conversation. It's an ongoing one, as you know, but it's really lovely to be having these conversations. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Give it up for the Beyond the Binary panel. Thank you so much, everyone. How are you, Student Pride? Are you good? I love this Pride so much. It's the pride of conversation, and I just think we all learn so much from it, and it really does make a difference to our lives and everyone else's around us. I was hosting Brighton Pride last summer for MTV, and we were doing a live Facebook stream, and I met a mum who introduced me to her trans son who was 8 years old. And I think slowly we're making a difference by being so visible. So it's brilliant. We're also live on Facebook right now. So tell all your friends that they can watch what you're seeing. We're basically breaking the internet. We're on HuffPost's UK website. You can check us out on studentpride.co.uk. We're like Kylie Jenner's baby video, except I am the daddy. I don't know if I'm actually serving daddy vibes today. They told me not to wear pink because they said I would clash with the set, but I think it's okay. I think you can see me, right? You can? Maybe I am camouflaged. I don't know if you noticed, but our set is made entirely of cardboard boxes, and it was kind of difficult to assemble. So please give the Student Pride team a big round of applause for doing that. Today, we are talking about our homeless writers in the LGBT plus community. We're taking a short break. Our homeless panel is coming up at 3. It's really important to just note that there will be some difficult but crucial stories. So if you need a quick break, upstairs right now on the Gay Star student stage, you can check out a YouTube and puppy therapy collaboration featuring Doug the therapy pug, who is adorable. Check that out right now. It's upstairs, and we'll be back at 3 p.m. for the homeless panel with Attitude Magazine and the Albert Kennedy Trust. And don't forget to hashtag Student Pride all over your socials. Thanks a lot. See you in a minute.
At the very end of the class, someone came up to me and said, sorry, what pronouns do you use? Is it okay if I use they for you? And I was like, that's the best thing anyone's ever asked me.
And someone came over and they said they enjoyed my performance, but they misgendered me. But my friend immediately just chimed in and said, hey, this is Sammy, his pronouns are he, him. Corrected other people when they've misgendered me.
We were out and for some food, and he asked me if he should come to the toilet with me to make sure I felt safe.
I went to a restaurant, and the guy called me garçon, and I
nothing coming except for being in your room. And I'm trying to figure out the problem. Oh baby, if I only know why you want me to stay when I wanna leave, and maybe I should pray and try to believe that we're gonna be okay, but it's hard to focus. I never wanna do you like this, so I just gotta admit that our hearts, they don't click, and our friends, they don't mix. Oh, but you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit that our love can't fix. But your kiss, I might miss. How? But you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit we have nothing more to laugh at, and you hate it when I tell my jokes. Oh, but I know you like it with the lights up, and I can't stand to be alone. That's why I always stay when I wanna leave, and maybe I should pray and try to believe that we're gonna be okay, but it's hard to focus. I never wanna do you like this, so I just gotta admit that our hearts, they don't click, and our friends, they don't mix. Oh, but you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit that our love can't fix. But your kiss, I might miss. How? But you know our bodies play tricks. Don't wanna do you like this, but I just gotta admit. If only for the night. If only for the night. Cali bound, speed on 99. Living for the moment. Blue dress, yeah, fit me right. You know I'm not fronting. We are more beautiful together. We leave a sizzle in the air. I'm not afraid about the future. I close my eyes and I am there. Come test me so hard. Give me the crash course. I should let go, but I'm holding on. I know you treat love like fast cars, burn through hearts like NASCAR. But this is the best part, when there's nothing else left to lose. If only for the night. If only for the night. We'll be touching bodies. We'll light up the sky. If only for the night. If only for the night. We'll be touching bodies. So let's light up the night up.
My name is Jack and I'm the co-chair for National Student Pride.
Hi, I'm Georgie and I identify as a lesbian.
My name is Nikki. I identify as a transgender woman.
So do you know what you're about to do? No, I don't.
I do not, and I'm a little scared.
I think I'm going to have to write something.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just judging you. Hi, what's your name?
Addison.
Do you listen to Britney Spears?
I have listened to Britney Spears.
Do you like Britney Spears?
Yes, you do. First off, I'm going to ask if it's okay if I can get a hug from you.
Cher or Christina?
Neither. Okay, that's quite a manly hug. The trainers. I don't know, I have a thing with white trainers.
Please don't be offended.
Gay.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Hattie.
Nice to meet you, Hattie. The boots are a little lesbian-y.
Do you have cats?
I've got a cat, yes.
How many do you wish you had?
Hundreds.
is a masculine presence.
So from stereotypical, I'd say straight. Which name?
Matt, nice to meet you.
Can I get a hug?
Yes,
Can I get a hug?
absolutely. Batman or Wonder Woman?
I'm seeing slightly different coloured hair. I'm seeing the nose piercing.
Straight.
Bisexual.
God Save the Queers top. Love that as well.
Again, I'm judging.
Posture as well, quite relaxed.
So, a lot of young people, I feel, identify as queer if they're a little alternative, and the green hair screams alternative.
Gay.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
I'm shocked that I was so wrong on some of my answers.
Surprise!
A little. Yeah.
Well, I got one of them right, kind of.
Although I am curious as to what the difference is between the bisexual and the bisexual plus.
I think not a lot of people know what pansexual is. Sometimes when you are having a conversation about your sexuality, it can be easier to just be like, oh, bisexual. People know what that is because it's in the acronym. But pansexuality, I think I see it as a branch of bisexuality. I like people for their personality rather than their gender or anything like that.
I'm similar to Hattie in that I identify as pan, and you were right because I also identify as queer in that like wider arcing, but pan because you can be attracted to like multiple people.
Does that mean those who identify as pansexual, are you attracted to trans people, trans men or trans women?
Yeah.
Oh. I think it's nerve-wracking because you make judgments about people, about their appearance as soon as you see them, but you don't usually tell them to their face. Just because somebody is dressed a certain way doesn't mean that you should judge them under their sexuality.
Have you ever found that when you've been with someone that isn't the same gender as you, so for example, if I've had a relationship with a woman and then had a relationship with a man, it's like, oh, so you are straight?
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works.
Not a phase.
Sorry, guys.
How was it for you guys growing up though? Because for me it was really confusing because one day I'd want a guy and the next I'd want a girl and I'd be like, oh, I don't know what it is. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, do you know what? If I like someone, I like someone. Full stop. At that age, there's that pressure and like puberty is like running amok. Like, my lord.
I came out as bi, had relationships with both men and women over the years, had a really bad relationship with a man, defined as a lesbian for a couple of years. I think pansexual defines me more for what I am. But I think it's also quite easy, like I've probably done it myself, if I see a woman with another woman, I'm like, oh, she's gay, they're lesbians. And it's not always the case.
I'm not sure. Rather softly spoken.
Okay.
It's Student Pride 2018. Hello. I'm James Barr, host of MTV News on Tuesday, so check it out. I also have a podcast called A Gay and a Non-Gay, which we'll check out in a bit. We're about to do our next panel, so if you guys are at the bar, you might want to make your way through and join the rest of our crowd, because this one is going to get very real. Our next panel is the big one. It's what Student Pride today is all about. It's the Attitude Magazine and Albert Kennedy Trust talking about the crisis that saw over 11,000 young LGBT plus people homeless last year, which is devastating. 1 in 4 homeless people identify as part of our community. So please welcome the chair of the panel by Attitude's editor, Cliff Joannou.
Hello, thank you.
Have a good time. I think we tongued them.
Hello,
Did we
can you hear me? Oh my gosh, you can hear me. About 3 years ago, we started the Attitude Pride Awards, which, the easiest way to describe it, it's the Pride of Britain Awards, but for LGBT plus people. We went out and sought stories of people that have been through really distressing situations and have come out the other side. One of those people was a guy called Emmanuel Okogenu, and he is originally from Nigeria. His parents didn't take him coming out as gay too well. His father had a really difficult time with it, and the situation became difficult, it became aggressive. He was actually outed, going back a step, he was actually outed by a sibling who read some text messages on his phone. Eventually, Emmanuel found out that his parents were planning to send him back to Nigeria, to go back to the family that were living quite in a rural situation in Nigeria, to have effectively what they regard as conversion therapy. His only option was to run away from home, which he did. He fled, and he was living rough for a while, sleeping on sofas of friends, and eventually got in touch with the Albert Kennedy Trust. The Albert Kennedy Trust managed to help him. They got him into a safe situation, and they helped him through college, and he got through university, and eventually finished his law degree. So we gave him a Pride Award for everything that he'd been through and everything he'd accomplished since. One of the most important things that came out of that, for me, was just how overlooked the LGBT situation is in homelessness. It's a scary statistic that 24% of young homeless people identify as LGBT. That's a disproportionately high number. Like, anybody who knows the statistics of, I can never say that word, can I? Anyone who knows the statistics of who, you know, how much our community makes up of the wider community, that's far too high. And if you think about the wider perspective of homelessness, it's only getting worse. It's doubled since 2011. There's over 4,000 people in England sleeping rough every single night. And in 2016, 8,000 homeless people were reported in London. That's over the course of a year. That's doubled since, I think the last time they did those stats was 2010. It's a really, really bad situation. It's only getting worse with the changes to the benefit system, with changes in legislation that make it harder for people to get social housing. We hear about it all the time. It's in the papers all the time. People are in bad situations and finding it hard to get help from the local services. So suddenly these local charities like Albert Kennedy Trust, the Outside Organisation, they're all stepping in to do what they can. What we're going to do today is hear some stories of people who have been through that. They've experienced homelessness and they've come through the other side. Some of them are still trying to work it out. So I'd like to welcome to the panel Bridie. Bridie, come on. Carla. Matthew and Anira. Grab a seat, dear.
Oh my God. Is that me too? I'm just going to sit down. Do you want me to?
I'd like to think the majority of us grow up in supportive families. Like, even if our parents have a difficult journey to accepting our LGBT identity, you know, it might take years or months, but eventually the majority of us, I'd like to think, come up to a point of acceptance from them. Often that takes a lot more understanding and patience from all of us than them. But what's more disconcerting, I think, is the fact that for a lot of people, you know, you don't feel safe in your own home. When your parents can't accept your sexuality or your gender identity, when they can't accept the core of who you are, your home is not necessarily your safest place in the world. So your only recourse is to run away. It's something that I think all of you here have experienced. Matthew.
Okay, so...
you work for Gallup, yeah?
I do.
And what do you do there?
Okay, so I work for Gallup. I'm one of the hate crime caseworkers. And Gallup is an organisation, an LGBT organisation that supports victims of hate crime, sexual violence and domestic abuse.
So you must have a lot of stories that come through Gallup of people that have experienced some really dramatic or traumatising situations.
Absolutely.
Is there one in particular that you can highlight and share with us now?
Yeah. Approximately 2 months ago, it was a week before the Outside Project opened, I had a young gentleman who had been beaten up by his neighbours in his home. He went to the police. Unfortunately, the police weren't very helpful. A week later, he had a bottle smashed over his head, and he ended up with a massive scar down his face. Because of what he experienced the week before, he didn't go to the police. So I was trying to kind of build up his confidence to engage with the police.
Did you meet him directly then?
He came to visit me.
Okay.
He came to see me at our offices at Gallup.
Yeah.
A week after that, he rang me up to say that his boyfriend had thrown him out, so he didn't have anywhere else to go. And then, so I tried to get him into a shelter. I did. I got him into a shelter. But when I explained what this shelter would be like, even though I explained it'd be a temporary situation, he got scared, and I didn't hear from him for 2 months. So he was out there.
This is just one of many stories that
Exactly.
obviously you deal with yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to bring someone else on, Faz, who's just joined us. Come in. Sitting in the wings. Come and join us. Sit down.
Thank you.
Yourself, you've experienced a domestic violence situation.
Yeah.
And you felt you had to make yourself homeless in order to get away from it, like you had nowhere else to run.
I went to a homeless persons unit. My boyfriend at the time was an alcoholic, and I could no longer live there. And when I was at the homeless persons unit, the gentleman said to me, because I disclosed to him that I was HIV positive, he actually said to me, because you're HIV positive, you wouldn't be able to go in a hostel, would you? Because it would be dangerous for you to share a kitchen and a bathroom. Now, I know that sounds awful, but he was actually saying that because he wanted to help me. He could see I was very vulnerable, and he was worried about me going into a hostel, so he used that as an excuse to put me in a temporary one-bedroom flat. Sadly, there are less resources these days, so if that had happened today, I would have ended up in a hostel and potentially gone from one abusive situation into another.
Generally, like across the board, how easy is it to help people and to get them into safety or to give them a place to go to?
It's really difficult, and this is why I was so keen to volunteer for the Outside Project, because I have a lot of clients who are in abusive situations. I have a lot of phone calls come through in the helpline where people are trying to flee abuse, but they've either been in hostels before or they've heard about what hostels are like. So it's a choice of staying with people who claim to love them, who are abusing them, or going into a hostel where they're going to be abused by complete strangers. But since the Outside Project opened 3 weeks ago, I had someone call me on the helpline. They were fleeing an abusive situation, and within 3 hours, I got them into the hostel. So I knew I got them to a place of safety.
We should talk about the Outside Project now. I was going to bring it on later, but as you mentioned it, we should bring that in so people know what we're referring to. Carla Icola, you're a modern-day saint. Yeah, you've...
He's like a PR person.
Yeah.
He's a great volunteer as well.
Well, you are an outreach worker, correct?
I was an outreach worker.
Yeah.
I worked in a day centre before that, and I worked in a hostel. I worked in a supported accommodation. So I've kind of worked in the sector in a few different areas.
But you experienced homelessness, I understand. You're like, for 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
you jumped between accommodations, staying with friends, going to services. What started that experience for you?
I think there's a lot of complex issues that led to my homelessness, and I think that, for some people there's one really kind of, damaging situation, but especially for women there's like different safety nets, and this will fail and this will fail. So I think over time it's just about being broken down by different experiences. It's like abusive partner, end up in staying with friends, sofa surfing. Everybody gets a bit sick of you doing that. You end up maybe with some relatives that are homophobic. This is my experience.
We often assume it's to do with like parents, but sometimes it can be a domestic violence situation, like with partners or... really often. Our community are more likely to experience domestic violence. So, and we're less likely to recognise it as well. Because when you think of homelessness, you think of somebody there is a distinction. There's rough sleepers who are literally people on the street sleeping, but a homeless person can also technically, it is somebody without a home. Somebody staying with friends who doesn't have a place to go to that they can call their own, doesn't have a flat, doesn't have a bed. That's, homeless.
So
and there's a lot of hidden homeless, isn't there?
Our community make up the hidden homelessness, and women as well. So we'll sleep on buses, we'll sofa surf, we'll go to all-night parties, then the after party, and then the party after that. So that's the kind of behaviour that we don't recognise our own homelessness a lot of the time. We've been out campaigning over the past year for the project, and a lot of people have come to me at the end of the night and said, I'm in this situation and I didn't think that I was homeless. You know, people have this kind of idea that you need to be in a doorway with a sleeping bag and there you're homeless. People I'm speaking to in the clubs and the bars, they live in those clubs and bars. That's where they live, and they go home at night with different people every night, and because they're homeless. And they live in like squats and parks and places that outreach workers aren't going to find them, because obviously they're more at risk being actually like visibly out on the street.
Your personal experience, you ended up working in outreach following years of being homeless. Like, you went through the system, I guess. You went to, what was the project that got you off the streets initially?
It wasn't really. I mean, again, it's not approachable. I didn't find it approachable. I went to Crisis Day Centre in Whitechapel. They put me on a course working with vulnerable people. I was a bit like, how did you get your job? That was a bit rude. So I kind of just worked my way out of it, really. But yeah, it's like breakdown in employment. I had homophobia in my job, so I had to leave my job. And so it's like loads of different experiences that I had that just made me give up, actually, on trying to sort things. And I ended up squatting, and it's just really dangerous.
I can imagine it just wears you down as well, and it impacts your mental health. You know, there's issues of depression, anxiety creeps in, and you just get into a cycle of negative thinking, don't you?
And if you need to stay awake all night to be in the club and to go home and be that fun person, you know, all of the drugs come into it. It's just like endless amounts of drugs on the scene that people will give you, you know, because you're at the after party, and you take them because you need to stay awake and you need to be this fun person. You know, if you can't just go to an after party and fall asleep in the corner, because then you're not going to get invited back again. You know, so you end up kind of getting into this spiral situation of being this fun party person. So
last year you had this idea to start the crowdfunding project. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? That's a phenomenal achievement, what you did. I'm so impressed.
Well, thank you. Well, I definitely didn't do it on my own.
Well, it came from your idea.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for the community, and as I say, it's like going out to places and so many people recognizing that this is their experience as well, and inviting us to fundraisers, people donating their birthday party to us, things like that. So we launched at London Pride, and we launched the crowdfunder, and within the space of 4 months we'd raised like £11,500, which is phenomenal considering our community. We're broke, you know, we're more likely to suffer with poverty as well as everything else. So the fact that we raised that was, you know, it amazes me.
What did that money allow you to do? You bought a bus?
We bought a bus, so we bought a 12-bed tour bus.
Tour bus, yeah.
And
had some good history to it, I imagine.
Huh?
Metallica's tour bus.
Yeah, it was Metallica's tour bus. And Status Quo and Radio, yeah, some famous people have been on this bus.
And then every night you took that bus around different locations, or?
No, we had like a secure location. We had referrals from Albert Kennedy Trust, Gallup, Stonewall Housing. So young people who were homeless, people fleeing violence or hate crime, they would come to us at the shelter, and we would support them to move into secure accommodation as much as we could.
And what were some of the people that came through your door? Like, what were some situations? You said obviously we've got to hide people's identities, so we can't be specific, but you know, what were some of the more traumatic or disturbing situations you've encountered?
I think people in accommodation already, like winter shelters, but just experiencing homophobia, transphobia, biphobia in those situations. So like winter shelters and hostel, like mainstream services is what we kind of call them. And just not feeling safe there and having to flee that kind of situation. So we had a lot of that. We had people fleeing violence in the home. I'm just going to put it out there as well. It's like, yeah, violence in our community. If you're violent towards your partner, it doesn't make you a stud, and it doesn't make you more mask. And I think that's like an issue that we have amongst our community. So yeah, domestic violence, hate crime in the street as well. So yeah,
I guess if you're LGBT as well, you're sometimes, if you've been through a negative situation or a situation where you're not accepted, it's harder for you to then seek help through the general services because you're not your concerned people will understand your story.
Yeah, I mean, if you walk through the door of any kind of day centre or HPU, you know, you're having to deal with the worst situation you've ever been in your life, and on top of that, you might get homophobia or transphobia or biphobia, or you'll be put into a situation where full of people that you're trying to avoid. Like when I went into Crisis Day Centre, it was full of guys, and these are the people that I was avoiding in the squats and the parks and places that I was kind of hanging around and sleeping. When I was sleeping on the buses, I was avoiding these kind of older guys that looked a bit scary. So it's like, then I walked into a room full of them. So that was just terrifying. I mean, and it's worse as well for our trans community to try and navigate their way through that space. I mean, at least for me, I could try and go into stealth mode. I could try and kind of pretend that I was straight. Just look at me, you know. So people do that as well. But then there's a negative effect from that, because people's mental health deteriorates when they're not living their true self in their real identities. So,
it's hard enough to live your true self sometimes with a job, you know, at school, when you have a roof over your head, let alone when you don't have that stability around you. I mean, Anira, we'll move on to you. You're originally from Denmark?
Yeah.
Okay. You moved over here in 2015, is that right? And you had a job to go to, you're working?
So I was already set up with a job when I came to London. I moved to Kingston, and 5 months later, I was basically homeless.
Right, so you lost your job,
Yeah.
and obviously you can't pay your rent, so then everything, it's very easy for everything to like fall apart quite quickly, especially in London. If you can't afford your rent, which is very expensive,
Exactly.
suddenly you're faced with nowhere to go. You found yourself actually sleeping rough as well, which, you know, on the streets and fire exits.
Yeah, like I always try to like keep myself safe. So I found like hostels and like hotels and like fire exit like doors. Basically just anything else than in the street, because you know you just need to keep yourself safe.
It's quite, obviously, sometimes, you know, you stand out more on the streets, I guess, if you're trans as well, and it's a more threatening situation. You said there was some negative times where, you know, some difficult moments where somebody was filming you as well.
People are just so out of line these days.
So you're homeless, you're sleeping rough on the street, and you had somebody filming you as well.
No, I've never really like slept on the street.
Right.
Like, it's have just been like day-to-day basis when I've been like, you know, on the train or like, you know, out and about basically. And people just take their cameras and just like low-key trying to like take a pic or like film me, obviously because that I'm different or trans or whatever. But yeah, no, yeah, that can be a bit too much, especially if you're like going through the homelessness, and on top of that, it's just, that's like the last thing you need.
You've had people be verbally abusive to you as well.
Yeah, and you know, I've just started to just like stick up for myself and challenging it, because in the beginning I was more likely to just ignore it and just like walk away, but it's just, if you keep walking away, they're just gonna keep thinking it's okay. And if you stand up, you're not only standing up for yourself, you also stand up, you know, for the rest of the community.
But you're also putting yourself in a threatening situation, because I guess people, you don't know, they could be drunk, they could be aggressive. You said you've had to run away from situations before like that?
Say again?
Have you had to run away for, like, escape situations like that?
Yeah, no, obviously, because when you're homeless, you just spend so much, like, an amount of time just being out and about. And then, you know, it's more likely for, like, stuff to happen, because you just have so many hours you need to, like, go through. Yeah, I've had, like, a day when I was just, like, walking, and this guy starts me up, and he's like, what are you, a man or a woman? And I was just like, what is the need for you to come and approach me like that? And you know, stuck up for myself, and then he walked towards me, and I just bought this Fanta from Burger King, and I was so ready to get that down, but instead I took my Fanta and I threw it at him, and I just started running, because he started like running after me, and I run into this bar, and they were just so amazingly, like, the manager came out and, you know, made sure he like kicked him out, and made sure like that I was safe until like he was out of sight. But yeah, you know, it's just, you know, just like I used to go to libraries a lot, you know, to waste time. And it's just school kids as well, like, I don't know, 13, 14, you know, when they're like in cliques and, you know, they see you walking and then one of them starts with a comment and then they all start to laugh. And yeah, I find that.
I guess it says something about society, doesn't it? The way we dehumanize homeless people. I think, you know, it's easier for a lot of us in society to just not think of them as human beings, just because then we don't have to feel guilty, I guess. Like we can move on from that thought quite easier when we dehumanize people like that.
I think people just blame homeless people. Oh, they must be drug addicts. It's like, well, where did their drug addiction come from?
Yeah.
Like, nobody decides to be a drug addict. They're obviously masking something. Something's happened earlier on in their life, or they're just lazy. They don't want to work. How are you supposed to work when you don't have somewhere to sleep at night?
Yeah.
So I think that people make excuses for why they can walk past people in doorways and why they've kicked their partners out or, you know, their kids out onto the street. You know, it's all their fault. So.
You spoke earlier about people, especially within the gay community, jumping from party to party. That's something you went through as well.
Oh my God, yeah. I literally used to just go out just to like, you know, I always like went to a random bar or whatever and like acted like I was waiting for my friends. And then, you know, I'm very sociable, so I always ended up like finding a group of people. And then you just like stuck along and then like came with an excuse like, oh my God, my friends are not coming. And then just like, you can just hang with us. So yeah, like I've been, especially like Vauxhall, because, you know, like all these clubs always like closed so late at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it was so jarring, like
so
every
day.
day.
Just go back to their house, you'd kind of like get comfortable, have
Basically,
a shower or have a sleep or something.
But you couldn't even sleep because, you know, you want to an after party and then, you know, like, so when you come to that after party, you kind of have to like force yourself to be awake. And all you want to do is just lay down and rest. But you know,
I guess you're keeping up a pretense, aren't you?
Also, like, then there's drugs and all that stuff, and yeah, just to keep yourself awake and have that extra energy kick. Yeah.
You managed to. You got in touch with your project, outside organisation, and you're being helped currently.
Basically, I googled like youth homelessness, and I found Albert Kennedy Trust. Such an amazing organization, just helped me so much. And they're the one that got me introduced to my Gordon Angel. And yeah, and she's been taking care of me. And, you know, the Outside Project.
Yeah.
Been there since December.
I understand you're getting help now to get yourself, because you don't have a relationship with your parents, do you?
No, I don't.
That broke down a while ago. Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah, your parents are from Morocco?
So yeah, my origins are Moroccan. You know, it was, I just had to get away from Denmark, and I kind of pushed my parents away, and I just kind of cut contacts with them.
And you've not had contact with them since you left?
No, I haven't. Basically,
how do you feel about that?
Well, you know, I don't really think about it because, you know, so much is happening.
You don't have time to think about it,
no,
do you?
exactly.
You've got to look after yourself.
I haven't really like sit down and actually like process like, wow, I actually don't speak with them. But also because like I'm still kind of angry, you know, because when I think about my parents, I just think about all these, you know, times where I just had to like, before I come home, like change like outfits and all these like arguments and you know all the like the cultural like Moroccan people, when they've seen me, they, you know, call my parents and be like, we've seen your kid out and about dressed like this, and you know, and where I'm from, it's a small city, so like I was very like recognizable, mainly because I was twerking a lot in the clubs.
Yeah.
Always so extra.
But the clubs is a safe space for a lot of, you know, LGBT plus people to go to, isn't it? Because you go there, majority of people in there either have hidden themselves or are a bit on the outside, so we kind of go there, we dance, and we can kind of forget everything for like a few hours.
That's another thing I feel like with me, like I wouldn't say that I was an alcoholic, but I mainly just drank just to like, you know, get away from like the reality, and then you're like tipsy and you're wavy, and you know, everything is just so much more like easier.
Of course.
Actually.
Going to move over to Bridie. Hello. You're from Newcastle. You live up Newcastle now, yeah?
Yeah, I live in Newcastle.
Okay, and you're currently studying. You're at university.
I'm at Teesside University. I study psychology and counselling.
But your education was slightly put off track as well, wasn't it? Because you were living between your grandmother's house, your mother's house, and your father's house, like moving between each on a regular basis.
Yeah, it was complicated. Like obviously, there was arguments and other like complications in the family home, which meant that I had to move a lot. Like my mum suffers from spina bifida, hydrocephalus, and other conditions that make she's in and out of hospital quite a lot, and that put a lot of stress on me and my stepdad, because obviously made like looking after my little brother quite difficult. And obviously, with other stresses going around, like obviously when you were a teenager, there's a lot of stress in like your own life anyway.
Yeah.
And there was other contributing factors, and I think
that's a lot of disruption for somebody that's like 16, 17 trying to study, isn't it?
It made life pretty hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think it helped that when I came out as like a lesbian, I did it through Facebook. I decided not to use, you know, like actually confront my parents and deal with the issue. It's not an issue, but like to them it may have been.
I understand that the majority of tensions were between your stepdad and yourself, and you were often, because of the arguments that would happen at home with your mother, your stepdad and yourself, they were blaming you for damaging your mother's and stepdad's relationship.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a lot for a teenager to take, isn't it?
The reason I sought help with AKT was because there was this specific argument, and I wasn't even involved. I was in my room, like I shut myself in my room because I preferred to be away from them, because I felt like if I was out of the way of their arguments, I wasn't the one causing them. And I heard my stepdad scream at my mum that if I didn't leave the house, if I didn't leave, he was going to leave my little brother and her. And I didn't want to be responsible for like their marriage dissolving.
Yeah.
So, and my mum literally called my dad to ask him to come get us, because apparently I was so disruptive I couldn't even stay in my own bedroom. I had to leave. Like I literally got dragged out my room and like forced to my dad's house while everyone's kicking off us, saying that I'm destroying my parents' lives. And it was a stressful time, definitely.
So you ended up actually not staying with either of them, telling them you were at one of their places, but actually you were just staying with friends, weren't you, or just sleeping on sofas?
Yeah, I'd try and find whoever's house was like most convenient, or whoever had something there that I could go to be away from them. And I'd spend like weeks on end at my friend's house, or like saying I was at one friend's house and at another, just to try and, you know, so they thought I was safe, but realistically I probably wasn't. And it's obviously not a good way to live. Like, it's not, lying to people is not like good, especially not when it's your parents. Nobody should feel like they have to lie to their parents.
And obviously it directly impacted your education, didn't it?
Oh, it really disrupted my education. I've sat 3 different sets of A-levels before I found one that I could actually, I managed to pass, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think if it wasn't for AKT, I wouldn't be where I am now.
And the levels of anxiety that come with that, and depression, I guess, you know, it affects your mental health and your confidence.
Yeah, I suffer from anxiety and other mental health conditions, and just the stress and everything that was going on was really bringing us down. And like I've obviously been like made us feel really suicidal, made us feel really depressed. It just wasn't a comfortable situation.
So how did you find yourself getting out of that cycle of crashing at friends and like not having your own home? Where did you go for help?
Well, mainly I got in contact with AKT.
The Albert Kennedy Trust.
Yeah, the Albert Kennedy Trust, and they helped me find a flat with them, which gave us the space I needed to like rebuild my family relationships, and like also gave me the space away from them so they could work on their problems without me sort of being a hindrance or whatever the situation, you know.
When was that when you went to them? How long ago was that?
Sorry?
How long ago was that when you went to AKT?
I was housed with AKT in July of 2016.
Okay.
Since then I've completed my A-level course, and I've now, in September, I enrolled to Teesside Uni to do psychology and counselling.
That's fantastic. But so you're not living with any of your family now, you're living on your own?
I live in an AKT, Albert Kennedy Trust property.
Okay. How do you feel about what you've been through over the last 3 years? It's more than most people your age will have experienced in their lives so far.
I'm quite grateful. I'm quite grateful for the experience, because there was things about my life, things the way I was acting that obviously weren't right as well. Like, it wasn't all my parents' fault, some of it was on me. And taking myself away from the situation gave us the chance to reflect, realise where I was going wrong, and realise how I could help to rebuild those bonds that had been broken down. And obviously I think it gave my parents the same opportunity, and it's given myself the opportunity to build myself up as a better person.
Well, it sounds like you're a remarkably strong person, so...
Thank you.
Faz, you had a similar story in that you had a disruptive family situation. You realised that at quite a young age that you were born into a female body, but you were not female, you were male. So, and then that was about 5 or 6 years old, you said?
Yeah, I was 5 years old when I cut my hair off when I was like 5 years old, because my mum put like plaits into my hair, and obviously I didn't like plaits.
Yeah.
So I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought to myself, like, this is not me. I am not this person. So I just got a scissors and I just cut off my hair, to be honest. And then, like, my mum was devastated, as any parent would be. But luckily, at the end of it, I got a bold haircut done, and because I was 5 years old, you couldn't really like distinguish whether I was female or male. It was a lot easier. But she always made sure that she made me wear like flowery shoes, so that people could distinguish that I am female. So.
And then I think at the age, you lost your father quite young, at age of 6, I think?
Yeah.
Right.
So I was 6 years old when I lost my father.
And then your mother was aware of your gender dysmorphia, wasn't it? She went to the doctor to seek advice.
Yeah.
And what happened there?
So she went to the doctor because, like, I come from a Pakistani-Iranian family, and we tend to rely heavily on the doctor's verdict about anything. So she went to the doctors and said, like, I know that's not a male and I know that's not a female. So tell me what's going on with my child. And at that time, like, this is back in the 90s, early 2000s, the doctor said it's a phase that I'm going through. So my mum hung on to that, like, for a very, very long time. It's a phase, you get over it, it's a phase, you get over it. And then she tried to push me into wear like more traditional clothing. I'd become a little bit more feminine, but clearly that wasn't me, and I felt like I was to blame for that, because I felt like I wasn't meeting expectations into the gender identity that she wanted me to be.
So, when she said to you it's a phase, how did that make you feel?
Pardon?
When you were told that it's a phase, you're going to grow out of it, how did that make you feel?
I felt disheartened, to be honest with you. Like, I was very, very young, but to be told that that's a phase is...
Because you just want your parents to say, yes, I love you and you're great as you are.
But it's invalidating your feelings. And I felt like when you're young, it's easier for parents to be like, oh no, it's just a phase, or it's easier for them to be dismissive. But that wasn't the case with me. And I think later on that caused me a lot of mental health, like anxiety, and a lot of like I didn't have self-confidence the way I do now.
And then your mother, she ended up battling cancer for a few years, didn't she? And passed away when you were 15?
16, yeah.
16. Then you went into the care of your auntie. You lived at home, in the family home, with your two brothers?
Yeah.
Okay. Your auntie wasn't so accepting. Well, your mother wasn't necessarily accepting, but she didn't try to force you into like engaging in your, traditions or the religious background that you grew up with. But your auntie was not like that.
No, she wasn't. She was very much cultured and very much religious, and in Islam, according to her, like, it wasn't acceptable to be trans. So that led to like her and I having a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, and her constantly saying to me that you're female, realize you're female. And obviously as a trans person, that wasn't comfortable to go through, because that's not who I am. And every time they used the wrong pronouns and called me she, that invalidated my feelings.
Did she try to make you wear traditional dress as well?
Yep, it was her daughter's wedding actually, and she wanted me to attend her daughter's wedding, and we were like siblings with her children. But she wanted me to wear a dress, and I just couldn't do that, because that would have meant that everybody would identify me as female, and I'm not female. So we had like a massive argument around that.
So you started to feel, obviously, your home life was undermined, you know, your comfort at home felt threatened. That led you down to a route of anxiety, and obviously where you're questioning yourself. You said there were some points where you felt you couldn't leave the house.
I had a lot of gender dysphoria, and I was staring myself in the mirror, and I just couldn't walk out my room, let alone walk out the house, because even in the house I would wear my binder like all day long. Even at night times I would sleep with my binder, and I know that's not good. But at that point, I just wanted some recognition of my identity, and I felt like if I performed male, and if I was being male and like exaggerating my masculinity whilst I was at home, maybe my family will consider me to be male. But clearly that wasn't the case.
So, you know, it was terrible in the fact that you didn't feel safe at home, but at the same time you didn't feel like you could leave the house.
Yeah.
So you're completely trapped in some respects.
Yeah, I mean, I would often find myself like just crying, like in my room, and like just curled up underneath the blanket, because I felt like this is my only safe spot, and this is all I have. But it wasn't until I went to AKT and I went to Albert Kennedy Trust that I found out like I could have a home where I could be accepted, and I was put into the Purple Door Project, where I met other people that were like me. And it wasn't a house, it wasn't a project. Like to me, it was our home.
So you ended up getting evicted from your family home because obviously you struggled to pay bills. Ended up having to be made homeless, and then you were crashing at a friend's house for a while.
Yeah. So for 6 months after I decided to leave my aunt's house, I was homeless for 6 months, and I stayed around my friend's house.
And then during that time as well, you were trying to study as well.
During that time, yeah, I was trying to I just graduated, so I was just trying to find my way into the working world. But that was impossible being trans, because A, you have to explain to them you're trans. B, you got to make sure the workplace is supportive of trans people. And going to interviews was the hardest thing, because you have to have that conversation with them about identity. And more times people don't know the difference between sex and gender. And you're too busy in an interview trying to fight the sex and gender is two different things, so that never ever worked out.
I mean, one of the disturbing, when we spoke earlier, you were telling me your story, one of the things that really struck home with me was when you said I didn't know what safety meant at home.
Yeah.
Not to know what it feels like to be safe at home, and to live with that every day. I mean, you've been through that as well. It's quite a terrifying thing. It's something a lot of us take for granted, isn't it?
I mean, the concept of home is safety, and like you said, not to feel safe at home, a place where you're supposed to be yourself, and not having that comfort, and not being able to live as yourself, and to feel constantly thinking I felt more comfortable outside when I did gain the courage to go outside, and I did stay out a lot around my friend's house because I didn't feel comfortable at home.
Matthew, obviously at Gallup,
yeah,
you have a lot of these stories coming through.
Yeah.
Do you feel things have got better over the last 5-10 years, or do you think things are no different, or are they worse?
I think they've got a lot worse. I mean, when I moved to London 20 years ago, you could afford, accommodation was affordable.
So they've got worse not necessarily because of society getting worse, but because the nature of trying to live in modern England or modern UK
I think it's got worse because the support, I mean, yes, people, there is much more integration in terms of the LGBT community. People can be open, but there is little support for people who aren't able to, that haven't got that family support networks behind them. There is very little social support. The charities are really struggling. All charity workers are doing the work of 2 or 3 people these days. And there is just, 10 or 20 years ago, you could present at a homeless persons unit, and if you were classed as vulnerable, if you were referring someone to a homeless persons unit, you knew that person, that the social services, or there would be organisations that would offer them safe accommodation. But now, that's not the case.
I think it's funny because we see all these advancements in legal rights, like, you know, you can get married, you can't get discriminated against at work. There's so many like laws that have been passed, and we're told things are so much better. But the problem is, a lot of young people, they're still growing up in families who for generations have been anti-LGBT+. So yes, you might have all these legal rights and protections, but at the end of the day, they mean nothing if the home that you're growing up in, or the schools that you're surrounded by, your peers, are, you know, homophobic or transphobic. It's, you know, it doesn't mean anything really if your immediate environment is not supportive.
Absolutely, and also, you know, there is this, if you're not from an abusive background, if you're not in a situation where you're vulnerable, if you're not in a situation where you're having to worry about how you're going to pay rent or how you're going to get the next job or where you're going to find somewhere safe to stay, you can almost think, well, why do we need LGBT charities? Why do we need to fight for LGBT rights? Because it's all okay now. We've got same-sex marriage. Everything's good. But for people who haven't got that network, and for people who are discriminated against by their own family, and they haven't got the financial means to get by on a day-to-day basis, it can be a very bleak and depressing situation.
Okay, I think we need to wrap up shortly. Our crowd is much, you know, it's grown and huge now. I think one of the amazing things we could all do today is actually tweet and Facebook and send messages to your local MPs. There's the Home and Communities MP, Sajid Javid. Heather Wheeler is responsible for homelessness. Tweet at Student Pride, at Attitude Mag as well. That's where I'm from. I'm the editor of Attitude magazine. We are doing a report next month, the next issue, about youth homelessness. I've published 2 articles this week about the subject. I've been out on the streets with meeting rough sleepers, with outreach teams, meeting people who use public transport as a shelter, jumping on night buses because it's cold at night, so you don't want to sleep on the street. You're sleeping on the bus or the tube. The tube is 24 hours now, so you can effectively like have shelter all weekend. These people are in desperate situations. You know, a lot of people, you don't choose to become homeless. You don't choose to sleep rough on the streets. What we need to do is make the government realise there is a huge problem, and do what we can to support people like the Albert Kennedy Trust, Outside Organisation, and Gallup, who are doing all their best to like help LGBT plus people who are desperate and in need of help. So please don't forget the power of social media. Put it to good use. Don't just take selfies. And like tell people we need awareness and help. And I think we're done. I'd like to thank everybody here for sharing the stories. You're all amazing. You've all been through so much. And we're done.
Thank you so much, Cliff. And to all of the very brave young people on our stage right now. It's Student Pride 2018. Give it up to our homeless panel. And also to Attitude magazine, who are amazing. I write for Attitude, so Cliff's actually my boss. It's kind of weird, like, introducing him. Hopefully I did a good enough job. So coming up in 5 minutes, Evan Davis is interviewing the gender identity advocate and celebrity Big Brother winner, Courtney Act. I am so excited for this conversation. I know it's going to be a real highlight for today. And coming up after that, Callum Scott is performing. Plus, we're also hosting a brand new big gay queer date game show where you can be dating amazing influencers, YouTubers, millionaires, and more. Queer Date is on the way soon. You may have seen some of our pictures at the bar of our body confidence shoot, and we're now going to check out a quick video and to see how that went, and we'll be right back.
I feel like the easiest thing to start with is like shoes.
I guess like slightly nervous because I'm in a room full of people that I don't know.
Yeah, here I am, stripping in front of a room of practical strangers.
I have no idea what I'm meant to be saying, just FYI.
I am about to take off all of my clothes for body confidence. Seeing other guys around me all the time, it's kind of, you can't help but compare yourself to them.
It's like I've been sat around for 4 people. I was quite ready for this. And there's like the heart-shaped birthmark. Or is it that side? No, it's that side? Oh. Don't even know what arm it's on.
So that it sometimes can be quite hard to take a step back and realize I need to stop comparing myself to other people because I'm never going to be them.
I'm scared. I don't think anyone here has ever seen me with less clothes on than I have now, which is quite scary. I feel like my friends have maybe seen me drunk, like getting changed and stuff, but whew, right.
T-shirt is a difficult one. Well, there's that.
Okay, so I'm going to go with my shoes first. Please don't look at my holy socks.
I'm not that bothered about being top half naked because I am a lot in my house. Like with my old housemates, I just always walk around like in jeans without a shirt on. And like at this point, so many of my friends have just seen me shirtless. So like this is the least weird bit for me.
I've shaved my legs for the first time in my life. So they are incredibly bare right now.
What did you shave?
I shaved them for a party, so. Yeah, I've got 2 layers on as well. It's chilly. It's chilly outside. I don't know. Yeah, there we go.
This is the bit I hate the most. Oh my god. Cool, okay, I did it.
How are you feeling now?
Still scared. I'm here.
Feel different now with thoughts?
The longer I'm here, the less weirder it feels.
I would probably describe myself as curvy. I like my eyes and probably my bum.
I'd probably describe my body type as slim, I guess. I think my favourite part of my body is my eyebrows, does that count?
I see a lot of body shaming in the LGBT community, especially when it comes to gay men.
When you look at like a lot of like LGBT media and stuff, it is very like hyper-masculine and like very like fit and toned gym bodies.
There are a lot of pressures on how you look, how you put yourself out there. I feel pressure from it.
When I was younger, I was very, very insecure, and it's only like as soon as I hit 18 that I decided I don't really care what anyone thinks. I used to be quite obsessed with my weight, and so I would weigh myself a lot, but I realized that your weight doesn't really matter. No one knows your weight unless you tell them.
I think the advice I like try and give my friends when they're not feeling confident about themselves is to not compare themselves to other people. I think that's the one thing a lot of people do, is comparing themselves to other people.
What matters is you dress for you, not everyone else.
It doesn't matter what other people think of you, it's how you feel about yourself.
The way I stay positive with my body is I just look at myself in the mirror and smile until I'm happy with myself.
If you want to eat a bowl of ice cream, like, eat a bowl of ice cream.
You should love how you are, because there's no point getting yourself down about it.
Find other people that identify like you.
Self-care to me is just doing something to make yourself feel happy, like your own satisfaction.
It's your skin, and live the best life you can in it.
It doesn't matter what you look like, you know, it doesn't change a thing.
You said a great thing.
I don't know, you might have some low-key thirst going off during that video about body confidence, guys. Welcome to Student Pride 2018. How's everyone doing? Woo! Callum Scott is performing here soon. Oh, so excited about his performance. His voice just melts me. Also coming up, Queer Date, which is very exciting, and some of our contestants are starting to arrive backstage. Next, something very cool. We're doing a live podcast recording at Student Pride, so you will be heard. Please do not swear or shout out to your mum or ask anyone out loudly, because we'll have to edit it out and it could be very awkward. It's going to be actually very interesting. If you haven't heard Queer AF before, you can subscribe to it right now. It's the Student Pride podcast. And today, usual host Jamie and the roll call of student producers and reporters that are behind the scenes are handing over the mic to Evan Davis, who's guest hosting an interview with Courtney Act. So please welcome them both to the stage right now. It's a special recording of Queer AF.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I love Student Pride, and they keep inviting me back, and it's one of my favorite days of the year, and you should be very proud of Student Pride, and I'm proud to be invited here today. You know, I present Newsnight on BBC Two. We do a lot of politics, we do a lot of economics and business, and a lot of kind of world affairs, and every day on Newsnight, we are aware that we're in the midst of the most interesting and potentially tumultuous period. It's a divide that is playing out in front of us. I would call it a war. It's kind of a generational gap. It's a Brexit divide in this country. And there's a kind of cultural divide. And you and Student Pride is at the heart of that. It's a conversation about people who want to change the world in various ways. And more conservative people, often very much older, who are discombobulated by the things that they see around them changing. And honestly, on Newsnight, all the time, we think we deal with this kind of cultural conflict. We feel we deal with it intelligently, and we reflect this in debates on our programme. So it is pretty galling, as one who works on BBC Two, to find that Channel 5 managed to reflect the conflict, the debate, the kind of the generation gap, the cultural gap that is dominating the Western world at the moment. And they managed to do it in the most fantastically engaging way. And in the process discovered one of the best, most intelligent and articulated spokespeople for LGBTQ+ issues in Courtney Act.
Hi, everyone.
Courtney, do you think they realized when they booked you and they booked Anne Widdecombe that your conversations with Anne Widdecombe would be like the thing? Because it gripped not just, you know, the viewers, it was in The Sun, it really was a sort of national focus.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I've done a lot of political videos and videos about gender and about everything from foreskin to vaginas to race to going to a Donald Trump rally in drag and interviewing people. So I guess they had some idea, and I don't know if I knew. I mean, I'm just glad that the women went in first and that I had an opportunity to Google Anne Widdecombe and read at least 4 or 5 articles from different news sources to cross-check my facts and find out about Anne's sort of history and what she stood for, and sort of check out the other women in the House as well. But it was, I'm still taking it all in. Obviously, I didn't get to watch it. I was there experiencing it, and then all of these cameras that were around the room. I knew they were doing something, and they were beaming it out to everybody, and we just had no idea, because every conversation I had with Anne Widdecombe, I felt a little bit defeated. Like, I thought, oh, that was a pointless conversation. That didn't go anywhere. But then what I didn't realize is that everybody was watching at home and hearing 2 sides of a conversation that was done in, I think, like a fairly civilized way.
Yeah, no, I think that was a really big part of it. But the thing was, it wasn't just about persuading Anne, and you made this clear in the House. It was also about speaking to people outside who might be watching. I think you talked about the 14-year-old gay boy who hasn't told anybody his feelings, and making sure that that person doesn't feel that what Anne Widdecombe is saying goes unchallenged or left.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I imagine that everybody in this room is on a similar page when it comes to, you know, social values. Probably slightly different, but certainly a lot more similar than Anne Widdecombe and any of us. And so it's good to get outside the echo chamber and talk to other people. And all of the people in the House really had diverse opinions. I thought that Anne was going to be, you know, the very right conservative person that she was. And I thought that everybody else would be like on my side. in a way, and I felt that it was a lot more moderate than I expected.
Yeah.
The House.
Well, one of the more, so there was the you and Anne debate.
Mm-hmm.
One of the more interesting undercurrents was a sort of debate that goes on within the LGBTQ plus world about how to engage with Anne Widdecombe. And Wayne Sleep, for example, a gay man, was kind of representing sometimes the sort of don't make a fuss because it's not going to help somehow. And I wonder what you thought of that, because I can see that both ways. I'm 55, and I sometimes don't make a fuss. It's going to upset people, and it's going to make them worse, and it's better just to be a bit quiet. But you were not at any point going to yield.
No, and I mean, I think that's the thing. That's the way life works. Is that young people historically, not just our generation, but people of our age, and well, I guess I say our age. I'm clinging desperately to the title of millennial. Everybody else is trying to push it away. I'm like, no, I'm a millennial. I Googled it. I'm definitely a millennial,
no,
you
you're
guys.
millennial. These are not millennials. These are Generation Z, I think, is the name.
God.
Yeah, I know. I'm afraid. Yeah.
But I think the thing is that young people have the energy and have the struggle and have the fight to be passionate about things. I think Wayne and Amanda and Anne in their time fought and struggled for their own values. And, like the women in the House said, back when they were younger women, they couldn't even rent an apartment as a single woman. And so they've seen the evolution of their struggle. And now they're like, well, you know what? Things are pretty good for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it is time for the younger people to say, well, we still think we have a long way to go, and please respect that. And allow us to be vocal.
I mean, I want to come back to this issue of it was quite politely conducted for the most part. And I was really struck after you left and Anne Widdecombe was getting a lot of abuse online. You said, stop it, don't be abusing Anne Widdecombe. I mean, a lot of us look at social media and just do think the whole kind of, the discourse, the dialogue it's just got a little bit uncivil.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what your sort of take on that is.
Well, it's one thing to drop the C-bomb in the heat of the moment when you're frustrated and angry and reacting. Obviously, people are still in the moment on Twitter, but you do have, a moment to step back and think about what you're saying. And I mean, I see on social media these arguments, and in life, it's like politics, right? In Parliament, there's people standing on the left, people standing on the right, and they're just yelling really loudly. And you can only get so much of the message when you're yelling. And I think when you walk towards the middle and have a conversation and sit down and talk and understand that whilst Anne Widdecombe's views, for example, voted against every piece of pro-LGBT legislation in 20 years of Parliament. And, there's a lot of intrinsically homophobic things in her and transphobic things in her views. And I am a person of privilege who arrived at this situation where I can sit there and be like, you know what you're saying is horrible, even if you don't think it's horrible, because she didn't.
No, she doesn't think of herself as homophobic.
No.
It's a sort of, I'm defending her here. She thinks of it as a set of abstract principles that derive from religion and society and all those things. She doesn't, so she wouldn't want to be thought of as homophobic. But you're saying it is in effect homophobic, and it hurts. It hurts people.
Especially if you apply the same arguments to race. Yeah. If Anne was saying the same things about race as she said about queer people, you would no doubt say that she was racist.
Yeah.
But because we haven't evolved as far with the queer conversation as we have, say, with race, I think that it's very easy to sort of say, oh, it's okay. She's older. She's from a different generation. And I think whilst that's true, it's still important for the conversation to be had and for younger people to say, all right, well, let us
let us take
bring
over
a voice
here.
to it. Yeah.
But one of the other interesting things was that, let's be honest, a lot of people who don't follow these issues closely, because they just go to work and get on with their lives, find it quite confusing. Trans, non-binary, they just think, oh my God, what's all of this kind of, this complicated stuff? And I thought another interesting thing about your experience in the House was that actually you were quite good at explaining to people the different perspectives, particularly India, and how she might relate to you in a very ambivalent way, kind of a little bit sort of not that keen, but, welcoming of alternative lifestyles. And I wonder how, I wonder how you sell gender fluidity to people who've never really had any reason to kind of think about it or engage with it. So I'm not talking about people who would be resistant, like Anne Widdecombe, just the ordinary people, like the guys in the house that you had to explain it to and make them feel comfortable with it. What's the way of doing that?
Well, I think, the guys in the house were so, almost out of everybody, they probably had the furthest to travel to get to the conversation with me, but they were the most willing and the most interested. And somebody like Andrew, who, he described himself as a little bit camp, and rightly so. And, and I just think that, like, even him doing drag was leaning into that gray area that so often, straight men, I think, in particular, are often the people who are most rigid with their identity.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that you do it is by having conversations about it and trying to find, I identify as genderqueer and pansexual, and I had that conversation in the house and quickly realized that that message was about 4 steps too far forward.
Yeah, you need to walk before you can run, guys. Yeah.
And I'm comfortable identifying as a gay drag queen, so I was like, let's just break it down. Let's start with that, and then sort of try and describe. And nobody was trying to be disrespectful, and that was the thing I think to remember.
Well, a lot of them seemed to be trying to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, they were sort of, okay, take us through this. I thought that was really interesting. Fox Fisher, in an earlier session today, I don't know if you saw the non-binary session, I know you didn't see it, was talking about how we're non-binary, we're not threatening anyone else's gender identity. We don't mean to take away your masculinity or your femininity. And I wonder whether that is quite important, because if you manage to set it up in a way that makes people feel like they're being threatened, you're taking something away, you will meet a lot more resistance.
Yeah. I mean, I think in some ways the thing that they feel being taken away that they think, excuse me, is their identity, there is a lot of power being taken away from the people who are privileged, whether that be, white, cis, heterosexual men and women and people who haven't had to question their own identity. And I think this idea of gender fluidity, it was so fascinating in the house to see how the women really just didn't, for me, understand this idea that there were cultural norms and cultural expectations on men and women, and we just kind of live by them without questioning them. And I think, John Barnes made a passing comment about, you be careful with that, Andrew. You know what you're doing, but he doesn't. And I was like, well, what do you mean, John? And he said, well, there's an implication for somebody like Andrew engaging in anything more than something platonic with somebody like you in a public format. And I said, well, what I think would be more important is if Andrew did have feelings of any sort, that he act honestly on those feelings rather than pretend that those feelings don't exist just so that you can pacify a public audience. And I think the real thing is that whatever you're feeling, and it doesn't have to be queerness, whatever it is who you are, and whatever benefit you think you're getting from suppressing those feelings, the benefit that you'll get from liberating those feelings is far, far greater. And I think that's really the important thing for everyone.
It's often the coming out experience. I mean, it is interesting you say that, because something that is really interesting to me is to see when you do surveys, they've done this in the US, surveys of people this age, that they just identify differently to the people older than. So 48% of American, in a survey of Generation Z, which is about sort of 15 to 20-year-olds, identify as exclusively heterosexual. That's 48%, basically half.
Yeah.
That means half are not identifying. Now that's a big change even to the millennials who came ahead. And what should we expect? Should we expect that tells us that people feel much more liberated today? They feel much more open to be themselves? Or should we say that's just a phase? They're like confused teenagers, they're discovering themselves, and probably by the time they're 30, they will have settled into something that is exclusively heterosexual, exclusively gay, or probably binary gendered in one form or another, one of the two forms.
Yeah, I mean, young people are always prone to exploring the gray area a little bit more, I think. And I I think, I mean, the conversation with, say, bisexuality is when somebody who's bisexual gets a same-sex partner or an opposite-sex partner, people default them to being that sexuality. And I think that it's, I mean, there's a lot of labels and there's a lot of, you know, how important are the labels? I think the labels are important for us to learn who we are. And then once we start living in that truth, like for me, the term genderqueer completely set me free from an entire life of feeling not good enough as a man, not masculine enough, not valuable enough because of the ways we viewed masculinity. And when I realized that my femininity was valuable and important and could be celebrated, it laid to rest like this lifelong struggle with my gender. Now, I don't sort of wake up in the morning and think, oh, I'm gender fluid. I'm just me. But I realize how that term liberated me, and so I sort of talk about that. And you know, the counter to that argument is, am I gender fluid? Are these women's clothes, or because I'm wearing them, are they boys' clothes that I'm wearing, or do the clothes need a gender at all? So I don't necessarily have the answers or even understand it all myself, but I think that in a room like this, I think we're all having these sorts of conversations.
Everybody's feeling their way a little bit, and they'll gravitate towards something good, I'm sure. I want to ask you one about, because there's been a lot in the kind of the Me Too movement and the post-Weinstein stuff, about the objectification of women and using attractive women basically to sell. And I think a debate, I don't know how much this debate is going on, in gay male world, there is a lot of objectification, right? I mean, you know, my Facebook timeline and on Twitter, I see endless gay magazines and things basically selling me to click by a topless torso, you know, and that, what's the right, what should we think about objectification? You know, grid girls going out on Formula One and sort of hanging on the winners. It's now been stopped because a lot of women say that's just objectifying us and making us look like that's what women are meant to do. But I sort of feel in gay male world, that kind of thing probably goes on, where you just have hunky guys standing around. What should we think about objectification?
I mean, I think for the gay male world, it has a slightly different approach because it is a level playing field, and we haven't historically had men oppressing women, men oppressing men. We've had men oppressing women. So it is a slightly different conversation. But I mean, and even with grid girls, Jess Impiazzi, who was in the house, is a glamour model, and she spoke really. I really loved what she had to say about her choice to glamour model, to be a grid girl, to do all of these sorts of things. And it stopped me because I would have said like, oh yes, you're objectifying women, let's stop that. But then she also found it as a celebration for her of her, and everybody knew what was going on, and it's a tricky.
She didn't feel exploited.
She didn't feel exploited. And whether somebody from the outside could say, well, it doesn't matter whether you felt exploited, you were being exploited. And I guess at the end of the day, it's up to the individual to decide, how they feel about a situation. Gay men, I mean, quite often, I know I've been to some of those strip clubs in Montreal where men are being exploited, but in gay strip clubs. But fascinatingly, most of those men are heterosexual, and they're sort of doing a job. So it's just this whole sort of rich tapestry of confusion.
And it comes into whether the economic power is such that they have to do the job because they have no other choice.
Then it becomes an issue.
Or whether maybe they do have choices, and then it's less likely they'll be. Look, very quickly, because we're running out of time. You were there reporting, actually, on the American election.
Yeah.
Probably you didn't see the Trump victory coming any more than that. But you engaged with Trump supporters.
Yes.
As Courtney Act.
Yes.
Not as Shane Jennings.
No.
As Courtney Act.
Yeah.
Just give us a bit about that.
I went to a Trump rally in Fairfield, Connecticut in drag. I put on my best, liberal Tommy Lahren adjacent drag. And I went and interviewed people, and I didn't want to go and get a whole bunch of sound bites of dumb people saying dumb things. Unfortunately, that's all I got. I really wanted to go and understand. I didn't think I'd agree with, but I wanted to understand why these people were here and what they were voting for. What I did get was a whole bunch of people who felt, whether rightly or not, who felt disempowered and who were it was almost like the struggle of the other was now being adopted by the majority and used for their sort of own devices. And I think a lot of that comes from Donald Trump's messaging about manipulating people's fears, and it was really fascinating.
But a lot of those people don't feel very powerful. They have their jobs, the good status jobs have gone.
Yes.
The healthcare is not great. They've seen the economy move to the coasts, and they feel, I think, a bit left out. I don't know whether one should feel sympathy, respect, or fight. I don't know what the kind of reaction is. It's back to the same conversation about Anne Widdecombe in a way, isn't it?
And I mean, they were there because they were feeling powerless and they were struggling, and that there was a man, and whether what he said had any basis in reality or truth was irrelevant to them, because he was a leader. He was there giving them a message, and they liked the message that he gave them.
Just about over with the serious stuff. What's your next project? You've just come out of this thing. What's your next thing?
I have. I want to sleep. I'm going to Australia tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
And I'm going to be there for a couple of weeks doing a tour, and then I'll be back in the UK in June doing a tour of my show Under the Covers, where I'm going to be exploring sort of what goes on under the covers of music, cover songs, of our minds and of our society, and under the covers of our beds. Yeah.
All mixed in. Look, very well done.
Thank you.
Have become a spokesperson for people like this. They obviously love you. Courtney's going to be back in a minute. She's going to be back in a minute for the queer date session, which is going to be less political and more fun, I think. But can we please say thank you so much to Courtney. Hope that was all right. That was really...
Evan, I'm a little disappointed that you weren't showing a bit of leg as well. Courtney, I'll see you in a second. That was amazing. So great. Courtney is like our voice. Thank you so much. Right, don't move, because coming up on this stage, Queer Date. It's a hot mess student pride game show where you could date a celebrity. I'm very excited. We've got some incredible contestants and celebs taking part. So Queer Date is here in about 2 minutes. Upstairs on the Gay Star student stage right now, there is a body confidence open mic session, which is going to be awesome. If you missed any of our incredible chat between Evan and Courtney, you can listen to it again on our podcast, which is #QueerAF. And I also host a podcast, here comes the ad, called A Gay and a Non-Gay. And I think one of the really interesting things about today's session is how much we learn. And my podcast, again, is about teaching straight people about gay stuff and LGBT stuff, because actually it's really important that they understand. And I'm sure you've had situations with your straight friends where you're like, oh, you just don't get it. So I host this podcast with a friend of mine called Dan, called A Gay and a Non-Gay, and I'm going to show you a clip now from that podcast where Dan doesn't really know what Dom Top is.
What are you going to wear? Because it's really important. I don't want to be sat next to you if you're like looking like a four.
What would you want me to wear?
I don't know, something cute. Do you have your gay ice cream shop t-shirt? Do you want to wear that?
Yeah, I could wear that.
Or do you want to wear something that makes you look more mask and more like Dom Top?
Should I wear like a black t-shirt? Like a black...
That just went over Dan's head.
What? Sorry, what was that?
Dom Top just totally went over Dan's head.
Who's Dom Top?
Who is Dom Top? I don't know, but I want to check out his Facebook page.
A Gay and a Non-Gay on iTunes, Spotify, or your fave pod app.
No fats, no femmes, no Asians.
Oh, hell no.
Queen, please. Really? What? Cute. Thanks.
Hi. 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 Gross. Woo. Mm.
Pride 2018. Please give a huge welcome to Callum Scott.
Does she know better than I can? There's a big black sky over my town. She's around. And yeah, I know it's stupid, but I just gotta see it for myself. I'm in the corner, watching you kiss her. Oh, oh, oh. And I'm right over here, but why can't you see me? Oh, oh, oh. And I'm giving it my all, but I'm not the guy you're taking home. I just wanna dance all night. And I'm all messed up, I'm so out of line. Yeah. Stilettos and broken bottles, I'm spinning around in circles. Said I'm in the corner, watching you kiss her. Oh, and I'm right over here, but why can't you see me? Oh, and I'm giving it my all, but I'm not the guy you're taking home. Ooh, and I keep dancing on my own. And so far away, but still so near. The lights come on, the music dies, but you don't see me standing here. I just came to say goodbye. Everybody, I'm in the corner, watching you kiss her. Oh, and I'm giving it my all, but I'm not the guy you're taking home. Ooh, and I keep dancing on my own. And said I'm in the corner, watching you kiss her. Oh no, and I'm right over here, but why can't you see me? Oh no. And I'm giving it my all, but I'm not the guy you're taking home. Ooh, and I keep dancing on my own. So far away, but still so near. The lights come on, the music dies, but you don't see me standing here.
Please give it up for Callum Scott. Woo! I am terrified that we're going to fall over, Courtney.
Do you feel like we're standing on the precipice of a new age?
I hope so.
Are we going to walk down or are we going to stay here?
No, we should probably walk slowly. Okay.
Well, hello, Dolly. Sorry. That's for the theatre queens.
Doing that. Loved it. Are you ready for the hot mess of Student Pride 2018? I'm not referring to me or Courtney, by the way.
That's later.
It's yeah. Oh my God, are you coming out?
Yeah, I'm in a big... Oh, maybe that's a secret.
Oh my God, what? Did I just... Sorry.
Nothing. It's okay.
Well, I'm really excited about that. More details later. No one heard anything. Are you ready for Queer Date? Okay. I have to read the cue card, so I have to,
Go for
have
it.
to break. This is going to be our big gay game show where you will not find true love. But maybe you will.
You might.
I hope you will.
I didn't expect to find true love in the Big Brother house, but I did.
Oh, stop. You know what? I had thirst for both of you. Like,
Oh,
definitely.
stop it.
As it's coming up to Valentine's, we thought we'd do a very special blind date spin-off called Queer Date. And for the past few weeks, your applications have been coming in. We have loads of people that wanted to date our celebrities. We've chosen 2 very lucky students to come and try their luck on a date with our special guests.
Do they know who they are yet?
No, it's a total secret.
You're somewhere in this room. It could be you. Or you. Or you. Or you. Okay.
Or us.
Or us.
So the way we're going to do it is very simple. A student is going to come on, and then we're going to. Do you know what? Let's just do this. Should we roll the titles?
All right.
Okay, roll the titles.
Roll the titles.
And get ready for Queer Date.
I was running from my brother and his friends.
Oh my god. This is so exciting. I literally feel like Scylla. I'm Ginger, so I'm kind of serving Scylla right now.
And I feel like, oh. See, all my cultural reference, I have to spend
Paulo
a
Grady.
good time of assimilating. Or like Lily Savage, thank you very much.
Yes, exactly, you're right. You're the Lily Savage. So over here, our student will be placed behind this divider so that they can't see which 3 of our celebrities they have a chance to date. They're going to get to ask 3 questions before they decide which of them takes their fancy. And because we don't want them to know who they are, we're going to blindfold them with this unicorn blindfold and give them ear defenders so that
Oh,
they
a pair
can't
of
hear.
Ann Whitcomb's favorite ear defenders.
She needs a mouth defender.
Oh, girl.
Shade. After that, the contestant will choose which celebrity they're going to go on a date with, and we'll whisk them off to the Isle of Fernandos. No, we won't. We won't do that. We don't have the budget. We'll whisk them off to like the Isle outside of Science Block or something at the University of Westminster. They'll take photos together. They may fall in love, guys, so this is a real thing.
You never know.
Are you ready
Stranger
for...
things have happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you ready for our first contestant? All right, please welcome Alex.
Come on down, Alex.
Come on down.
I need to spend about 10 years watching UK. Hi, Alex.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, hot sauce.
Hi.
I'm going to keep you in my bag, swag.
Hi. Welcome to Queer Date. Are you hopeful
Did
that
you
you
just
might meet
did
the
you
one?
just call him a top?
No.
I think that's a little bit personal.
Did I say I like the top? I think I did.
Oh.
Wait, well, are you?
That's a bit. That's too far too
Courtney.
soon.
You know, our celebrity to know this as well.
gosh.
Okay, sorry.
But are you? No.
Have a seat, Alex. Please take the headphones. And
These are cute.
Yeah, they're very cute. Tell us a bit about you, Alex. Where are you from?
I'm from Tooting. Well, Wales, but we don't admit that.
Which university? Why not? Wales is amazing.
Not my part.
Whereabouts?
The Rhondda.
The Rhondda. Have you been to the Rhondda?
No.
Isn't
been
there
to
like
Wales.
an outlet shopping centre in the Rhondda somewhere?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
which
great.
is all.
I want to ask you a question. Tell me what this is.
This is my pride tattoo.
You've got a microphone. I didn't need to put this large black phallic object towards your mouth, do I?
Oh, wow.
This is your pride tattoo?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Well, it's just cute.
Okay. The people were waiting for the golden words, and it's cute.
It is very cute.
I'm a man
It is
of
cute.
work.
So it's a triangle with a rainbow flag.
Yeah.
Alex is an ex-diver, everyone.
Ooh.
You've got 2 puppies.
Yeah.
And love your top because they're called Blue and Ivy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You
Can we
study-
infer that you're a Beyonce fan?
Just a tad.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Alex studies leadership and management. That's so mask, definitely. Come on.
Okay, we'll go for that.
You're so binary.
And you also host a health centre.
Yes.
Which is very fun. So tell me about the health centre, because I hear you have a pretty cool class. Is that right?
Yeah, so I teach spin as part of my job, and I do a drag-themed spin class.
Amazing.
Yeah.
A drag spin class. What's it called?
I mean, drag
spin.
Drag spin.
Drag spin. That's what it is.
Pretty much.
Well, we need to come down to that. That sounds fun. Please pop your ear defenders on.
Wait, I want to know, how long have you been single?
Like 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, tragic.
When was your, how did your last relationship end horribly or amicably? Let's go with horrible.
Not great.
All right, no comment. Well, today could be your lucky day.
Maybe.
Yeah. Do you know who the people on the other side of the wall will be?
No idea.
Okay. I've been
right.
on a date with one of them. I have.
Oh my God, have you?
I have.
How did it go?
Put your earphones on and I'll tell you the end. I don't want you to think you're getting damaged goods.
A sloppy second. All right, so pop the earphones on,
Okay.
and then we'll put the eye mask on you. Oh wait, we should have done it the other way around actually.
Yeah, I think the unicorn
Yeah, there we go.
eye mask.
Can you just confirm you can't see anything?
Yeah, I can
Great.
see nothing.
If you could just pop the ear defenders on. Can you hear
Can you
us?
just confirm you can't hear anything?
I guess that kind of failed.
That kind of works then.
I'll close my ears.
Should we bring on our celebrities, Courtney? Woo! See you in a second, Alex. Although you can't hear us. So our first guest for the date is Lewis Oakley.
Come on, Lewis! Hi, Lewis.
Hi, Lewis.
Grab
Love
a
it.
seat.
Contestant number 2 is
Ollie Locke.
Hello, you lot.
Where am I? Am I?
This me, right?
I'm sorry, Ollie, can I just move you to this chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. admin. And the next contestant is
Laura Lou.
Woo! Hi, Laura.
Hey.
How you doing?
Hi. Good, thank you.
How's everyone else doing? Ollie, how are you?
I'm good, James Barr. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
It's lovely to
Full
see
name.
you. Is that?
And Lewis.
How are you, Lewis? Are you good?
I'm good.
Are you feeling like today could be your lucky day?
I hope so.
Yeah.
It could be interesting.
Am I allowed to talk about who's on the other side, or is that for them to find out?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah,
you-
let's talk about it. His name is Alex.
His name's Alex.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got a rainbow tattoo on his arm here, which I quite like. He has 2 dogs.
Yeah, he used to dive.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a Beyonce stan.
Yes. The beehive.
Fair.
I think you're gonna like it.
Sounds gay to me.
Yeah. You're in luck.
Yes.
So, Ollie, you own a dating app, which you're proudly supporting right now, Chappie.
I do. I founded a dating app about 2 years ago called Chappie. If anyone wants to meet their love of their lives, Chappie is more responsible, more respectable, and safer way to gay date.
But right now, you're on our show to hopefully meet the one in real life.
But I'm miserably single right now.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Exactly that. So I'm here tonight to find tonight. I love that. It feels like a night time, doesn't it?
It does.
We just need gin.
We can sort gin.
You're good, thanks. Gin tonic, please, darling. Thanks so much.
Laura, you're a LGBT YouTuber.
I am, yes.
Woo, represent.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your channel.
Oh gosh, it's me on a YouTube channel talking about LGBT stuff.
Awesome.
It's like, yeah.
Make sure you subscribe. She's amazing. All right, are you ready for round 1 of Queer
Absolutely.
Day? I'm just going to pop back. We'll just pop back to the other side.
All right.
See you guys in a minute. Are you nervous? You don't look nervous. You look very
Terribly
chill.
nervous.
I probably should be.
Who knows? I've never dated on camera before.
All right, we can now take Alex's ear defenders off. Hi. I was wondering we might make him jump.
Are you all right in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So, are you ready to ask question number 1?
Yeah.
Here is question number 1.
Okay, who would you rather go on a date with? 1, Demi Moore. 2, Macklemore. 3, Jack Black. Or 4, Courtney Act.
There are no wrong answers.
Oh, fuck, are we answering? Is this
Yeah, so contestant number 1. what are you
Lewis, what's
saying?
your answer?
Oh, I would definitely say Courtney Act.
Stop it. I'm going to go over here. You ask them the question.
Okay, all right.
Pretend I'm not here, guys.
Okay.
So, oh, Christ. I'm fine.
Right at the stage.
I had a Gemma Collins moment. Okay, so who are you saying?
I'll go for Courtney Act.
Courtney Act?
Absolutely Courtney, of course.
Courtney?
It's going to be Courtney, yeah.
Courtney for all
definitely.
3. Okay.
Shocking that was going to happen.
Yeah.
See, I feel like you want somebody who's going to break the status quo and not go for the obvious choice. That's just my...
I don't know, I have a pretty obvious choice.
You're a pretty obvious choice.
But I have one.
You have one?
Yeah.
What's your answer to the question?
Oh, no, you can't tell us your choice
This is
yet.
just the Courtney Mutual Masturbation Society. And I kind of like it.
Question number 2, Alex.
Okay, so alongside my studies, I manage a health centre, and one of the classes I run is a drag-themed spin class. If you were in my classroom, or studio, what track would you pick, and how would you spin me round?
Ooh, contestant number 1.
Oh, I mean, you've got to stick with Kylie, right? Spinning around. But we do it topless.
Contestant number 2.
So I feel right now you could go really cliche and kind of do a kind of Kylie thing, or
The competition is getting fierce.
I think the greatest showman, this is me, would be the thing right now, and so that's what I would choose, and I would spin you around with that.
Yes. Contestant number 3.
And I'm going to go harder,
Harder?
better, maybe faster and stronger, something like that, because that is exactly how I'm going to spin you around.
Wow.
I want to say it's Kanye, but I'm not entirely sure.
It's Kanye, yeah.
Kanye,
Daft
okay,
Punk.
that's fine,
Daft Punk. Harder, faster, stronger. What did you say? Harder, something else?
Harder, better, faster, lovely, and
That song.
everything.
That song. Okay.
I was going to go with Kylie too, but I was going to say Sexercise. Except I don't think anybody actually remembers that song, but it was really good. Do you remember that one? Oh, it was real sexy. Next question is...
I have always been good at sport and have often impressed the boys and girls with my tennis balls. What can you do that often impresses others?
Contestant number 1.
Well, I mean, as a bisexual man, I've mastered how to give orgasms to men and women. Like, I think that's pretty impressive. It's a hard job. Someone has to do it.
What was that you said there? And they chose you. Contestant number 2.
All right, I won't be doing it now because I have hideous feet. But weirdly, I can walk quite far just on my big toes. I really can't. Honestly, I really can't. My feet are so bad. I do not want photographs of my feet.
Can you do it in
have anything
shoes?
else? Seriously. But that is something I can do.
I mean, pick so it didn't happen.
I mean, honestly, we can't do this now. I'll get anxiety. I can't.
Consent is sexy.
Honestly,
Yeah.
So that's what I can do.
That's quite hot.
Shall I leave now?
Contestant number 3.
So I have been known, occasionally, with maybe enough alcohol inside me, to be able to do the worm. So I feel like if you and I were to be somewhere together, I could absolutely do that all over the floor.
Couldn't you do the worm now? Do the worm, do the worm, do the worm, do the worm, do the worm,
do the worm,
do the worm, do the worm, do the worm, do the worm.
Are you ready?
My mic. Can I do it with my mic?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I
Do I have to do this?
Do the worm!
Do the worm! Do the worm! Do the worm!
Yeah, if it's okay. You don't have to, but we'd really like you to.
There's not much space, to be fair. And it's a blind date anyway, so you're going to have to hear me do it.
Okay. Do you need space?
Oh, I don't know if can we...
No, apparently
no,
we're stuck to the ground.
they are stuck to the ground.
Well, we can move this chair.
I'll do 2 or 3. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
just do
What
one.
am I doing? Okay.
Please don't fall off. We have not
Doing
done a
it?
risk assessment
Sure.
for this. Guys. I don't want to be the boring voice in the room,
Okay.
but
I'm scared.
I'm scared too.
Okay. What?
Please don't bang your head. Oh, God. For me, contestant number 3 just took it home. We can give you a chair back. Alex, what are you thinking so far?
Well, by the sounds of the audience reaction, the worm went down pretty well there. I mean, I can't go off the first question because everyone said the same thing.
So what are you thinking? Is it contestant number 1, contestant number 2, or contestant number 3?
What do you guys think?
Got some
Okay,
3s,
this one?
got some 1s.
Anyone for this one? Oh. This one? Okay, I'm thinking it's going to have to be contestant number 2.
Oh. Contestant number 2, Ollie, look, let's... Oh, wait, no, sorry, I've given it away. We need to introduce you to who you could have won. So first up, please welcome contestant number 1, Lewis.
Wait, read it.
Come on down.
Come on down.
Woo! Hi, how are you? Sorry, blame these guys.
So sorry, bad luck. A good try though. All right, now please welcome contestant number 3.
That's me.
Oh, here's the music.
Hi.
Right. You are
I want to see the
really
worm
cool.
later.
Oh, well, maybe we'll see how it goes.
Are we should we pull back the screen?
Oh, is that what we do?
And now reveal the date. You ready? Here we go. You've won a date with contestant number 2.
Yeah!
It's Ollie Locke.
Hi.
Wouldn't that be awkward if I was his ex?
Wait, aren't you?
Well, see what
Maybe
happens tomorrow.
soon. Have a good date, guys.
Oh, shit, where are we going?
Don't do anything I would.
Everyone. Oh, which way? Head around the
see you
back.
guys.
Okay, head around the back.
Bye.
I did say it'd be a hot mess.
Don't do anything I wouldn't
Should
do.
we pull the screen back?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. All right. Are you ready for our next contestant? Please welcome Angelica. Woo! Oh, here she is.
Hi, Angelica.
Angelica, you look
Have a
lovely.
seat, my lovely. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, Angelica, tell us about yourself. Which uni are you at?
I'm at Sussex University. I'm doing my MA in Gender and Media. I'm there with a scholarship, but it's not going that well so far.
Oh.
Uh,
You smell good.
Thank you. That's my favorite compliment.
Yeah.
I don't care if I look like shit. I just want to smell
You
good.
look good too, but everyone can see
Thank
that you look good, but
you.
I can tell them that you smell good as
Oh,
well.
thank you so much. And you look amazing as
Thank you
well.
very much.
You do smell really good.
Thank you.
What is that?
It's Montbarry by Yves Saint Laurent.
Oh, please check it out, guys.
I used to sell for them.
Wow, so this one's a keeper.
So, how long have you been single?
Forever.
Forever?
I don't think I've actually had like a proper relationship. I had one that was like a month on and off, and I've never had an actual date.
Okay. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I don't really go out of the house, so to meet someone, they would have to rob me and then also be gay.
Do you have cats?
I have a dog.
A dog? What kind of dog?
It's like a mixed Jack Russell, but she's in Cyprus and I miss her a lot.
Oh, why is she in Cyprus?
Because that's where I'm from and she... Yay! Cyprus! What's up?
Is Cyprus here?
Is Cyprus being represented? Nice.
Okay, well, we're going to bring on our contestants now, your potential dates. So what we
Okay.
need to do is put some ear defenders and a mask on you so that you don't see who they are.
Okay.
Here's your mask.
Here's your mask.
Aw.
What would be your ideal match today?
My ideal match, someone who isn't as poor as me, because I can't like support
So you're
another
looking
person.
for like someone with a bit of cash.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't support myself. I
You know
can't
what?
support someone else.
I support that because you're owning your life there. You're just
There
telling
you
everyone what
go.
it is. It's totally
no,
okay.
I just want someone who likes to talk and doesn't like to be so flush and like go out on expensive things all the time. Just like chill.
Right, let's pop the ear defenders on.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
Are you sure?
What?
Wait, no, I can. Okay.
Wait.
Okay, now it's fine.
Can
oh, wow.
you hear us now? It's good enough for me.
Yeah, that was
It's
better
good
than
enough
last
for me.
time. Yeah.
Shall we bring on our hot dates? Contestant number 1
is Riyadh.
Check it out. You're all on
Hi.
camera, guys. Smile. Woo! Yeah, take a seat.
This one?
Contestant number 1.
That
chair.
one.
That one.
Oh, wait.
Oh, I don't know. It says Riyadh.
Riyadh.
there.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hello.
Next up, it's Charlie Craggs. Give her a big welcome to Charlie. Woo! Hey, beautiful.
Do I sit here?
Yeah, have a seat.
Oh my god, you're so pretty. Fuck you.
And next
Thank
up,
you.
it's Nikki Hodgson.
Takes me longer in
Wow,
latex.
Look at
sorry.
this. Can we just talk about this dress for a second? It's latex.
Lovely and latex.
Can I touch it?
You can touch it.
Oh my god, it's so bouncy.
I know.
The thing that
Charge him.
the thing that you know about a girl wearing latex is that she has a good supply of silicon-based lubricant.
Multi-purpose, exactly.
So, Nikki, tell us about your you're a sexual liberator. Is that right?
Well, I didn't know how to describe what I am and what I've done. I used to be a dominatrix. I'm an author, now I'm a sensible journalist for the BBC and Sky News, but I'm still here.
I love that.
Did you like whip businessmen and spit on them and stuff?
It's very boring.
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
Does not sound boring. Is it good pay?
Yeah, way better pay than I get now, so I don't know why I gave it up really, but hey.
Shout out to the BBC.
Right? Hashtag equal pay.
Riyadh, tell us about your documentaries. Obviously, we've all seen them. Everyone's a fan of Riyadh, right?
I talk bullshit on the internet for a living, and it seems to be going all right.
Yeah?
I'm here to find love, and yeah.
I have a story about Riyadh.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Wait, is this the one?
I saw Queer Britain on the television, and then I followed Riyadh, and then I tweeted him, and then he tweeted me back, and then we went on a date.
Okay, wait, tell us about it.
Well, we went to Veggie Press because, as you know, Courtney is a vegan.
We wanted to go to Mildred's, but the line was too long, so we settled for Veggie Press.
And we sat there in Veggie Press eating our vegan mac and cheese.
Oh, it was good.
Talking about Drag Race,
Better than
Queer
sex.
Britain. Oh, it was fabulous. Looking deeply into each other's eyes.
Aww.
And then we went to Freedom?
I don't know, you took me there.
The
Freedom?
Yard and Freedom. And
Yes.
there was a kiss, or two, or three.
Well, there was a three-way kiss as well, if I recall.
Fuck. Yeah. My friend Aaron. Aaron Macaulay. Just putting that out there.
Name and shame, babes. Name and shame.
But, no, I really enjoyed it. And
too.
we've built a really great friendship
We
from
have.
it as well. And we filmed recently. Check out the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Love you.
god. Oh my god, that's so adorable. Guys, we've really witnessed something today. And Charlie!
Hi guys.
Woo! So you obviously are an activist for
Yeah.
trans rights and everything, and you're an author too. So what's going on at the minute? What are you writing?
So I did a book for trans feminine people. Basically, it was kind of the book I needed when I started transition. So I didn't really have any trans people in my life, so I needed like a big sister. So I put a book together of letters from successful trailblazing, whatever you want to call it, trans women, kind of advice to girls starting their transition.
Brilliant. And what's that called?
It's called To My Trans Sisters. So I'm the
To
worst
My
author.
Trans
Like
Sister.
I.
I'm like, plug your shit, babe.
Yeah.
Plug your shit. Courtney, you stay here. I'm going to
All
go
right.
back to Angelica.
I'm going to stay here.
You
guys
and we can get ready
excited?
for our date.
Ready. Born ready.
Okay, so she can't hit. I'm so sorry if I made you jump. Oh,
Do
you
I
can't
need
hear me.
to-
Yeah, we
yeah,
just need to
okay,
take these
cool.
off.
Oh wow, that was so
Welcome back.
therapeutic.
Welcome back. How was that? Was it? Were you like meditating?
Oh yeah.
Very zen. You do look zen. Are you nervous?
I almost slept a little. Yeah, I am a little bit nervous.
You slept. You fell asleep.
Almost.
We
It's
were
like-
having the most entertaining banter ever on the other side. I
Why
can't believe you
was
fell
I-
asleep.
see? I missed
Okay,
the
are you
best
ready to
thing.
ask our hot contestants your first question?
I hope.
We're asking question number 1.
Okay. So I have a dog and she's all the way back home in Cyprus and I love her dearly, but because she's half Jack Russell, she's often very bad and I won't give her any treats if she misbehaves. So if I were a naughty girl, how would you discipline me?
If Angelica was a naughty girl, how would you discipline her?
I think we can just call off the game show right now and skip straight to the end, don't you? Shall we start with contestant number 1?
I'm a Christian, guys. I'm very boring and vanilla, but I can show you better than I can tell you.
Ooh.
Not really, guys. No.
Contestant number 2.
I would spank you hard, and then I'd stick your nose in your own piss so you don't do it again.
Oh my god! Was that how the day ended, Courtney? Is that the end of the night?
Contestant number 3.
Well, I would say Samata, Angelica.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Then I would call you Moromu, and I would ask you to get on your knees, and then we tie you up from the behind and work it out from there.
I would be happy to do that.
Just a reminder that we are broadcasting live on the Huff Post, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, it's
Okay,
fine.
yeah, we are.
My mom's
Sorry
not
about that,
watching,
everyone,
it's
if you're
okay.
watching at home. I'm sure you weren't offended. All right, let's go to the next question. Question number 2.
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number. So pick one. Call me maybe, call me by your name, You used to only call me on my cell phone. So yeah, call me maybe, call me by your name, or you used to call me by my cell phone, on my cell phone.
Is this picking which one of those three songs?
Yeah, which one of those three endings?
Got it.
Is Call Me By Your Name the film? I've not seen that yet, but I want to say yes, because I've seen like clips and it looks really cute.
I'm confused. Can we do that again? You want us to pick the name of the song/movie that we like the most and would say to you?
No, I think Angelica's asking you which one you would pick.
Yeah,
Call me
just
maybe call me by your name, or you used to call me on your cell phone.
How would you just complete the rest of the song? Hey, I just met you and this is crazy, so here's my number, so...
It is a complicated question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What did you
Wait,
say?
why are we getting silence from...
I think the film.
Okay. I'd say call me on my cell phone, on your call me on a phone.
Yeah.
Call me on a cellular device.
Contestant number 3.
Call Me By Your Name.
Okay.
And contestant number 1 said...
I fancy the main guy in that, the Timotei.
Oh,
Chalamet.
Fit.
Probably not what I should be saying if I want to win, but... oh well. Party.
Question number 3.
All
How are you
right.
doing, Angelica? You okay?
Good, yeah, I didn't write the question.
No, I should just tell you that.
Just
they
like,
didn't write the questions.
FYI. So, I love when people are confident in the skin that they're in. No matter what shape or size you are, it's about embracing who you are, and I fully support that. What part of your body do you enjoy revealing the most, and why?
Which part of your body do you enjoy revealing the most, and why?
Was that revealing? Is that what you
Yes,
said? Okay.
revealing.
Contestant number 1.
Well, are we talking natural body parts? Because Dr. Inglefield did a very good job. So.
Yeah, no, I'm all fake now, so you choose, honey. Look at his catalogue.
I would say my little hairy arse. I can crack a nut between those cheeks.
Ooh.
Contestant number 3.
Well, I would say I spend too much time wearing latex, so it's really whatever you can get into.
Ooh.
Courtney, what about you? We should answer this question as well. What do you like revealing the most?
Oh yeah, I want to know
I
that.
think mine would be the part that I revealed to the nation when I walked into the Big Brother house.
Yes.
Oh, your big heart.
My watertight tuck. It is watertight because once I peed and nothing came out until I pulled the tuck off, and it was a real mess.
I don't know how to answer that question. I can't beat that because your tuck was very impressive. I think I'm going to go with my hair because I struggled with being ginger for a long time, and now I'm kind of cool with it. So, my hair, I went deep. Courtney did something funny, I just went deep. Okay, are you ready to choose which is your favorite contestant?
think
We should
so,
probably
yeah.
recap them, right?
Yeah.
Should we recap?
I think number 1 sounded very sexy and very playful.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's recap them for you. It could be contestant number 1, all the latex. Contestant number 2, a hairy butt but ready to pop a nut at your earliest convenience.
Oh, Jesus.
Contestant number 3, I'm struggling to think of a recap. What you said was so unbroadcastable.
Contestant number 3 was the latex.
Oh, the latex, right. Sorry,
Yes.
this was the whips, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, when I said yeah, you're right. Okay, Courtney, do you want to do it?
That's all right. Contestant number 1, we had lovely surgically augmented Christian breasts.
That's it.
Contestant number 2, we had the
pop a nut, hairy
was
bum.
hairy? Was it hairy?
Hairy arse.
Hairy
Yeah.
arse.
Yeah.
That could pop a nut. Wait. Contestant number 3, who wears a lot of latex, and you could have whatever body part you could get to.
That's right. Who are you feeling, Angelica?
Do you want to ask the audience, Angelica?
Yeah, who thinks contestant number 1? Give us a clap. Number 2?
Awkward.
Number 3? I think I don't have a choice in this one. Contestant number 3, the audience chose you.
Shall we meet the
What,
people?
Do I have to wait to get my hands on it?
Yeah, you
Yes.
do.
Okay.
You've got to wait like 20 more seconds.
Oh my god, okay.
Let's see who you could have won.
This is who you could have won. Come on down, Charlie.
Oh, hi. This way.
What do I do?
Hi, baby. How are you? You're
I'm
gorgeous.
good. Thank you. So are you?
Thank you, Dr. Inglefield, again.
Contestant number 2, Riyadh.
Hi.
Lovely to meet you. like the hair.
Thank you so much.
And she smells good too. And she does.
Smell like a Lush shop. No, you can't smell. She smells like Lush.
It's my hair.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it Lush products?
Yeah.
Oh, there you
Cruelty-free.
go.
You like that?
I do like that. All right, now. Oh, ready? Ready?
Should we do the big reveal?
Let's do it.
You've got a date with Nikki!
You're gorgeous!
Oh no!
Sorry, there you go.
The whips are out already.
No, it's alright.
Liten ka?
Nee,
We can work with that,
I'll
right?
teach you more.
Okay.
Wow, the chemistry is just like...
They're speaking in
She
tongues.
speaks Greek, that's amazing.
What?
Yes.
Do you actually?
Just a little bit, but yeah.
Did we plan that?
I do. No,
That's
you didn't.
insane. Can we hear some Greek?
Oh.
I mean, I can speak a lot, but...
She can speak a lot. I don't know
Hey,
how
look-
far we'll get, but...
Well, look, we are on the HuffPost Live, but you can say whatever you want
Well,
in
I
Greek.
said Angelica Tikani, and she
Yeah.
understood that.
And I would reply, which means how are you? And I would reply, καλά εσύ.
Ναι, καλά. Πάρα πολύ καλά.
Nice, awesome. That makes it very
this is
good.
so adorable. Guys.
So that shitty ex-boyfriend...
Really?
So the shitty ex-boyfriend I had that taught me Greek has finally come in useful.
Oh, right.
Slay.
Yeah, great level.
Well, Angelica and Nikki, give it up for these guys. What a wonderful day. And bad luck, Charlie and Riyadh, but I'm sure you're happy.
They can go
Yeah.
together.
Oh, right, yeah, he worked out in the end.
And please give a huge round of applause to Queer Date. What a success, everyone. Please give Courtney Axe such a huge round of applause as well. She's going to be back on stage in a minute performing. Guys, I'm going to just take you off the stage now, if that's all right. It's time for your date. Off you go to the Isle of Fernando's. Have a good day. Oh my God, I want to like watch how it goes. Will you let us know how it goes? You come back on the show next week and let us know. Please let us know. All right, so it's Student Pride 2018. This is our 13th year, which is insane. And we're very lucky that nothing has really gone wrong, because it's kind of bad luck vibes being the number 13. But there's a lot still happening, which I really want to tell you all about once I can find my cue card, which I've lost. Heaven tonight. Who's going? Why can't I find the cue card? The wristbands get you in from 10 p.m. It opens at 10 tonight, which is earlier than normal. So please make sure you're there, because you get priority entry. But it's not guaranteed if you get there late. So please make sure you arrive super early. Thank you to the Student Pride team. Please give them a huge round of applause. They've been insanely amazing. Don't forget to follow Student Pride on Instagram to catch everything that you've missed today. Hopefully, our cameras will be following Angelica as well, so we'll get a bit of an insight into how their date went. Hi, Courtney. Thanks for coming back. You can watch back the video on HuffPost UK, and please subscribe to the Student Pride podcast, Queer AF, on iTunes and all the podcast apps. It's called #QueerAF.
And early on, it opens at 10 p.m. and you can make the most of £2.50 drink deals. You get priority access, queue jump, but not guarantee entry, and you never know who's going to be performing.
Although it's a secret, visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts on alcohol. And last up, give yourself a round of applause, because it's you students that make changes happen every single year, and you've made Student Pride so special today. So huge big up to you. Happy National Student Pride. Courtney, are you performing?
I'm going to sing a song for you all.
Are you ready right now?
Yeah, I am. It's one of my favorite Pride songs. It's one of my favorite Pride songs to sing. This is When Love Takes Over. Hit it. It's complicated. It always is. That's just the way it goes. Feels like I waited so long for this. I wonder if it shows. Head underwater, now I can't breathe. It never felt so good. 'Cause I can feel it coming over me. I wouldn't stop it if I could. When love takes over, yeah, yeah. You know you can't deny. When love takes over, 'cause there's something here tonight. Give me a reason, I've gotta know. Can you feel it too? Can you feel it? 'Cause I am standing here on overload. This time I blame you. Oh, I'm looking out for you to hold my hand. It feels like I could hold. Just love me right, like I know you can. We could lose it all when love takes over. Yeah, yeah. You know you can't deny when love takes over. Yeah, yeah. 'Cause there's something here tonight, 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 tonight. 'Cause I'll be loving you all the time. It's true. 'Cause I wanna make you cry with you. When love takes over, 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 over, oh I said over, 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 put those hands together, oh. Over, over, oh, I said over, 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 oh, when love takes over, yeah, yeah, you know you can't deny, when love takes over, yeah, yeah, 'cause there's something here tonight, when love takes over, yeah, yeah, you know you can't deny when love takes over. Yeah, yeah. There's something here tonight, tonight, tonight. Thank you, everybody. Happy Student Pride. I'm so glad I could be here. Love you all. See you later at GAY.
This is National Student Pride 2018.
Give me that gold, give me that platinum feeling. Baby, I'm sold, give me that touch that seals it. Bring me that ice, bring me that fire that burns me. Put me on lock, give me that key that turns me. I want you.